Chapter 105. The sudden great change in the old man's attitude also caused Xiao Yan to be at a loss on his face. The gaze he used to look at the old man was filled with doubt. However, the last sentence of the old man really caused Xiao Yan's expression to change. No matter what, this old fellow had finally agreed to help him repair the heavy Xian ruler. Ever since he had arrived in the Yuanwu continent, Xiao Yan had been worried about something important. Today he finally had some progress. Xiao Yan's lips curled into a sincere smile. He once again cupped his hands towards the old man and said respectfully, "Senior, thank you for your help." "If that's the case, then I have to thank Senior for lending a hand. This junior is extremely grateful. If Senior needs this junior's help in the future, this junior will definitely do my best." The moment Xiao Yan's words left his mouth, the little old man also smiled and nodded. A glint that could not be detected flashed across his bright old eyes. Given his shrewdness, since he had come from another continent, his talent was absolutely monstrous. Most importantly, the monstrous talent he was looking at was actually so young. This also showed the terrifying talent that Xiao Yan possessed. If he really matured, he would definitely become a giant in the Yuanwu continent. Moreover, perhaps there would even be a place for him at the true pinnacle. As an experienced and ruthless senior, he naturally would not let such a person go. After all, if Xiao Yan did not have sufficient strength, he would not have been able to rise from his original continent and become such a monstrous existence with such extraordinary talent. Although he could not rule out the possibility that Xiao Yan was a descendant of a peak faction in another continent and had grown up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Even so, if he did not have enough ruthless means, it would be difficult for him to ascend to the throne of the continent's only emperor. After all, based on what the old man knew, there was no longer any emperor essence in the other continents. This was a true heavenly imperial court. However, since Xiao Yan was able to break through to emperor, his ability must be extraordinary. Therefore, the promise that Xiao Yan had made was not so laughable in the little old man's eyes. On the contrary, it had some power and was enough for him to remember it in his heart. "Haha, little Yan Xiao, can you let this old man take a look at your ruler?" Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. However, before Xiao Yan could think of anything, the little old man opened his mouth and laughed. "Little Yan, don't think too much." "Little fellow, you don't have to think too much. It's just that I can see that this ruler has been damaged to its core. I think that you must have repaired it on your own after it was damaged. However, this result is far too different from what you expected. I only said this because I want to take a closer look. You don't have to be nervous." Xiao Yan came to a complete understanding after the little old man uttered these words. His heart was filled with endless praise for the latter's exquisite refining skills. Just by relying on the naked eye, this old man was able to tell that Xiao Yan had once tried to repair the heavy Xian ruler. He was also able to tell the result of Xiao Yan's repair. This eyesight was really frightening. Now that he thought about it in this manner, Xiao Yan was also able to understand. No wonder Luo Jin back then would praise this elder greatly when he mentioned this little old man. This kind of tactic could really be called an ability that could reach the heavens. In that case, thank you, elder. Xiao Yan smiled joyfully in his heart. An excited expression also flashed across his eyes. He extended both of his hands forward and slowly handed the heavy Xian ruler, which was on the verge of breaking, to the old man's shriveled hands. Since this little old man had the ability, the matter of repairing the heavy Xian ruler was basically no longer a problem. As such, how could Xiao Yan not feel joyful in his heart? The old man did not care about Xiao Yan's joyful expression. Instead, he poured all of his attention into the heavy Xian ruler in his hands at this moment. It was as if some kind of heavenly treasure was hidden within it. Xiao Yan could not help but feel a little astonished when he saw this. A moment later, Xiao Yan seemed to have recalled something. He waved his big sleeve and the space in front of him was suddenly torn apart by an incomparable force of the heavens and the earth. A wide spatial crack opened. Xiao Yan was not playing with his own strength. After all, his current strength was like child's play to the little old man in front of him. What right did he have to play with it? Xiao Yan did this only because he wanted to take out the entire piece of meteoric flame mysterious iron. When the little old man saw the black mysterious iron that crashed to the ground and almost caused the entire courtyard to collapse, his face did not reveal the slightest dissatisfaction. On the contrary, an indescribable joy surged onto his face at this moment. The little old man's eyes were wide open. The expression on his face had also stiffened because of his excitement at this moment. His mouth was even somewhat incoherent and he was unable to spit out any words. This caused Xiao Yan, who was standing quietly by the side, to involuntarily reveal an amused expression on his face. The identity of this little old man seemed to have been forgotten at this moment. It was a long while later before the little old man coughed awkwardly twice. Xiao Yan also hurriedly stopped the smile on his face and looked at the little old man in front of him with a serious expression. "Elder, this piece of meteoric flame mysterious iron is something that I have found to repair this huge ruler. This junior believes that this material should be sufficient. If there is any left over, it can be considered as this junior's filial gift to Elder. Elder can decide as you wish." Xiao Yan naturally knew that this amount of meteoric flame mysterious iron was definitely more than enough to repair his heavy Xian ruler. At this moment, this old man was clearly someone who treasured natural materials. He definitely treasured this meteoric flame mysterious iron very much. If Xiao Yan were to give him this meteoric flame mysterious iron, it would be equivalent to giving him a huge favor. In this way, if Xiao Yan were to really encounter any big trouble in the future, Xiao Yan would not need to say anything. As long as he was able to encounter it, he would definitely help Xiao Yan out. In this way, it would be worth it to Xiao Yan. A piece of meteoric flame mysterious iron in exchange for a favor from a true expert. If Xiao Yan could form a good relationship with this person in the future, he might even become a huge pillar of support. After all, the current Xiao Yan was still being chased by the Ghost Temple sect. Although he had finished off the third Hallmaster, he was after all only the third Hallmaster. Above him, there was definitely the second Hallmaster and the first Hallmaster, the two true experts. They were the ones that the current Xiao Yan was truly worried about. Moreover, even without them, the Ghost Temple sect, which he had yet to truly discover, would definitely be a huge hidden danger for Xiao Yan. If he did not make preparations as soon as possible, it was likely that there would be even more trouble in the future. "Ha ha ha, good kid. Not bad, not bad. This old man likes this. In that case, this old man will not be courteous. Ha 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 ha." Upon hearing Xiao Yan's words, a joyous expression appeared on the old man's face. As a weapon refiner, he treasured rare materials the most in his life. He naturally knew how precious the meteoric flame mysterious iron was. The piece in front of him at this moment might really be the last piece in the Yuanwu continent. As the saying goes, the rarer an object is, the more precious it is. Furthermore, this was the last piece in the continent. The value of this piece was even more unparalleled. How could he not be excited and happy? "All right, kid, don't call me old man in the future. My name is Luo Ao. You can call me Old Man Luo in the future. Calling me Old Man Luo makes us seem distant." With a change in tone, the old man actually took the initiative to introduce himself. As a result, the relationship between the old man and the young man rapidly became much closer. The two of them chatted for a while. Old Man Luo told Xiao Yan that if he wanted to retrieve the heavy Xian ruler, he would have to wait for a month. This period of time was really nothing to Xiao Yan. To a practitioner of his level, a month's time was merely the blink of an eye and could not be considered long. Xiao Yan slowly walked out of the small courtyard and looked at the vast sky. The glaring sunlight caused Xiao Yan to involuntarily use his hand to block it. However, the corners of his mouth still carried a relaxed smile. At this moment, the large stone that had been hanging in his heart had finally been lifted. Now, all he had to do was wait for that 1 month. Old Man Luo watched Xiao Yan slowly leave from within the small courtyard. His old eyes involuntarily narrowed. The scene of Xiao Yan and Li Kong slapping each other earlier once again surfaced in his eyes. Speaking of which, that avatar should be the 9 transformation body skill of Yuanqing from the Cloud Celestial sect. It is really unexpected that the Do skill that Yuanqing would rather die than pass to an outsider was actually given to this brat. Hee hee. Has he also taken a fancy to him? Let's see who is more capable. At this moment, 2 human figures stood in front of Xiao Yan outside of the small courtyard. They once again blocked Xiao Yan's leaving body. After the earlier collision, Li Kong and the 8-star Do Shang beside him had already understood that this ordinary-looking young man's strength had definitely reached the level of a Bandi Zun. It was impossible for the two of them to fight. However, Li Kang's face revealed a disdainful smile in the face of this. That smile was so ferocious that it seemed to have come from the depths of hell. If Xiao Yan was merely an elite Do Shang, he would really be afraid that Xiao Yan would flee. However, since Xiao Yan was a Bandizoon expert, he had a reason to forcefully keep him in this savage ancient city. May I know if the two of you have any other matters? If there is nothing else, I shall take my leave first. Xiao Yan was too lazy to bother about the intentions in Li Kang's heart. He had already said that he would naturally not do anything if Li Kang's grandfather did not provoke him. Otherwise, he would not show even the slightest mercy. Li Kang merely laughed mockingly when he heard Xiao Yan's words. After which, an extremely cold and selfish sentence was slowly spat out from his mouth. What do I have to do? Ha 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 ha. This young master wants to say that I want you to die. Chapter 106. I want you to die. These vicious words were transmitted into Xiao Yan's ears, causing him to involuntarily laugh coldly. A disdainful expression surfaced on his face. This caused Li Kang's heart to become increasingly furious. Do you think that with your Ban Sheng strength, which cannot even be considered an ant, you can kill me? What right do you have? Don't tell me that you can rely on this 8-star Do Shang beside you? Humph, what a joke. Xiao Yan's cold laughter caused Li Kang's heart to become increasingly furious. He wished that he could tear Xiao Yan into 10,000 pieces and turn him into ashes on the spot. However, in the end, he still relied on the confidence in his heart to forcefully suppress the fierce fury within his heart. His eyes, which were looking at Xiao Yan, were also replaced by an endless ferocious expression. Li Kang's face was distorted. His expression was ferocious. The corner of his mouth carried a cruel and bloodthirsty cold smile. His tone was extremely cold as he laughed coldly. That's right, that's right. You are a dignified Bandizoon expert. I am naturally unable to harm you. However, just because I am unable to harm you does not mean that no one can suppress you. Li Kang's face had already become crazy after he spoke. It was as though he had seen the scene of Xiao Yan collapsing in front of him. His expression appeared incomparably ferocious and unusually terrifying. Li Kang suddenly extended his hand. A palm-sized jade pendant also appeared in his hand out of nowhere. Li Kang did not hesitate. However, it seemed that he was afraid that Xiao Yan would stop him in time. He suddenly clenched his hand the moment the jade pendant appeared. The jade pendant suddenly burst apart and turned into a dust fog that scattered in all directions. Bits of rock powder also followed Li Kang's fingers and fell down. When the jade pendant burst apart, a circular invisible energy also swiftly spread across the entire place from the point of explosion. Xiao Yan might have seen everything that Li Kang had done, but he was not the least bit worried. Instead, a mocking feeling surged into his heart. A mere 6-star Bandi. It was nothing compared to the current Xiao Yan. Since this Li Kang was shamelessly eager to prove himself, Xiao Yan did not mind giving him a slap to wake him up. However, at this moment, Li Kang did not appear to have seen the mocking smile hanging on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth. Instead, he coldly stared at Xiao Yan with a victorious expression. He quietly waited for Xiao Yan's death. When the special energy spread, a pair of sharp eyes suddenly opened in a certain secret room within the ancient savage city. Instantly, his gaze swept towards the area where Li Kang was located. Murderous intent was present within his eyes. The jade pendant was something that he had personally created and given to his grandson. He had already warned that unless it was a life-and-death situation, one should not use the jade pendant. From the looks of it, his disappointing grandson had likely offended someone again. However, since he had used the jade pendant, it was likely that the matter this time around was not a small matter. A cold snort was emitted from his nose. The figure within the secret room also instantly disappeared at this moment. In the next instant, an elderly figure slowly appeared in the sky 100,000 feet above the ancient savage city. An incomparably powerful aura also swept out in an instant, spreading across the entire place. Its aura was frightening. When this aura swept out, quite a number of people within the ancient savage city discovered the existence of this figure. Immediately, the crowd within the ancient savage city erupted into an uproar. Within the ancient savage city, it was likely that there were not many people who did not know of this person's existence. Even if there were people who did not know before, they would instantly know of his identity after being reminded by the person beside them. The old man in the sky was the ancestor of the #1 clan in the ancient savage city, the Li clan. His strength was frightening. He had already stepped into the position of a half-martial emperor. Moreover, he was a genuine 6-star half-martial emperor. Within the ancient savage city, Other than the Union Pavilion, there was no other faction that could compete with him. He could be said to be the true overlord of the ancient savage city on the surface. However, at this moment, such a frightening existence that was usually unimaginable had appeared in front of them out of nowhere. How could this not cause them to be excited? However, from the looks of it, this ancestor of the Li clan did not seem to be in a good mood at this moment. Those who were able to stay in this savage ancient city were all extraordinary individuals. Their temperaments were shrewd and ruthless. As long as there was even the slightest bit of wrongness, they would be able to easily detect it. At this moment, the aura that erupted from the Li family's ancestor was clearly not friendly. This was enough for everyone below to treat this seriously and not let down their guard in the slightest. In the next moment, this ancestor of the Li clan seemed to have found something. His body moved and once again disappeared from this empty space. His body once again appeared outside of the small courtyard. He had just revealed his body and did not have the time to see who the person in front of him was when this ancestor of the Li clan frowned. Given his familiarity with the ancient savage city, this place was where old Luo resided. How could he not be careful now that he had appeared in this place? Soon after, his eyes turned towards Li Kang by the side. His expression involuntarily became ugly when he saw Li Kang's tattered clothes and the similarly miserable 8-star Do Sheng. Under his probing, he discovered that Li Kang's body had quite a serious internal injury. If he was careless, it would be a small matter if his tendons and bones were to be injured. However, if any sequelae were to be left behind, it was something that he could not tolerate. Immediately, he followed Li Kang's eyes and looked at the person who had injured his grandson. However, his expression instantly became as gloomy as water when he discovered that this person was actually Xiao Yan, whom he had met earlier. It was a long while later before he finally looked at Xiao Yan. Both of his eyes narrowed as he stared at Xiao Yan and softly said, "This friend, the old me, is Li Gone. It is likely that this friend has heard of my name in this ancient savage city. If my grandson has done anything wrong, the old me will naturally bring him back to punish him. However, from the looks of it, you have been quite harsh on my grandson. Don't you feel that it is beneath your dignity to bully a little Ban Shang with your status as a Bandi Zun?" Xiao Yan lifted his brows when he heard Li Gon's words. He felt quite displeased in his heart. It seemed that the injuries on Li Kang's body were all blamed on Xiao Yan. However, Xiao Yan also understood in the blink of an eye. Li Kang had a deep grudge against him. Naturally, Li Kang would try his best to frame him. Moreover, this Li Gon would definitely not dare to do anything to old Luo. Hence, this crime would definitely land on Xiao Yan's head no matter what. Hence, there was naturally no need to say any unnecessary words. It was fine if he admitted to it. At the very most, it was just a fight. Li Gon clearly saw through Xiao Yan's thoughts and immediately felt a little suspicious in his heart. With Xiao Yan's own strength, he did not think that Xiao Yan could fight with him. However, the expression that Xiao Yan revealed at this moment did not seem to be fake. Could it be that the person in front of him really had some tricks up his sleeve? Thinking of this, Li Gon's eyes could not help but narrow into a thin line when he looked at Xiao Yan. After a long while, his slightly overbearing voice sounded again. "Why don't we do this? I see that you are also young. It is not easy for you to have such a cultivation. Today, my grandson has suffered so much. Let's treat it as training for him." Li Gon's sudden soft words also caused Xiao Yan's expression to be slightly startled. Immediately after, he looked at Li Gon suspiciously. Sure enough, as soon as these words were spoken, Li Gon immediately opened his mouth and said, "Of course. After all, this old man's grandson was also injured by you. I'm afraid that such an injury might leave behind repercussions. This old man is extremely worried in his heart. Therefore, if you are willing to apologize to my grandson, this old man will treat it as if nothing has happened today." As he finished speaking, an incomparably tyrannical and terrifying aura quietly spread out from Li Gon's body, causing the surrounding space to slightly distort. Xiao Yan's expression instantly changed. He was able to clearly feel an extremely terrifying aura and pressure enveloping the surrounding space at this moment, causing his body to involuntarily sink slightly. Humph! With a cold snort, Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook. The terrifying aura and pressure that enveloped Xiao Yan's body instantly receded like a tide. As for Xiao Yan's expression, it had become extremely gloomy. "Apologize? On what basis? Don't tell me that you, a mere 6-star half-martial emperor?" As Xiao Yan's words rang out, Li Gan's expression instantly became ugly. He, a 6-star half-martial emperor, was actually being mocked and ridiculed by a mere 3-star half-martial emperor. How could he not be furious when faced with such humiliation? Brat, you truly boast shamelessly. Since you don't place this old man in your eyes, let this old man see exactly where your confidence comes from. Before his voice sounded out, Li Gan's body had already violently moved. He charged towards Xiao Yan. A great battle was about to begin. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 107. Humph. Brat, how arrogant. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. After saying those words, Li Gan's body rose from the ground with a bang. He once again ascended to the high altitude. His pair of sinister old eyes looked at Xiao Yan from afar. Wherever his gaze met, space would involuntarily ripple. Brat, do you dare to fight this old man? Li Gan looked down at Xiao Yan, who was in the city below, as he slowly opened his mouth and said. Although his words sounded like a question, there was an additional sense of tyranny in his tone. Today, Xiao Yan had first injured his grandson, and then did not place him, a 6-star half-martial emperor, in his eyes. It could be said that he had completely lost face. Thus, no matter what, he would make this brat pay a greater price in order to heal the wound in his grandson's heart and quell the fury in his heart. When Xiao Yan saw this scene, the corners of his mouth lifted into a cold smile. The gaze with which he looked at Li Gan was filled with ridicule. You want to use me to establish your might in front of everyone in the city? Ah. Since that's the case, I won't be polite. With this thought, Xiao Yan's body flashed and instantly appeared opposite of Li Gan. The two of them stood on opposite sides of the sky. When the two of them appeared in the sky, the countless human traffic within the savage ancient city once again paused their footsteps and lifted their heads to look at them. When the crowd saw Li Gan, they were all startled. At this moment, Li Gan was releasing his aura. From the looks of it, he was going to fight someone. When the crowd turned their gazes to Xiao Yan, they were once again shocked by how young Xiao Yan was. The person that Li Gan wanted to fight was actually such a young brat. However, these people were not stupid. They naturally knew of Li Gan's strength. Since this young man was able to stand side by side with him, his strength was definitely not much weaker than Li Gan's. This kid was actually another half-martial monarch expert. When they thought of this, the crowd below could not help but become restless. A half-martial emperor at such a young age was truly rare. Of course, among the crowd, there was no lack of people who had taken the opportunity to meet Xiao Yan when he was in the Yunin Pavilion. At this moment, they recognized that this person was the same person from yesterday. A wave of exclamations came from all directions, and the crowd that had yet to calm down was once again stirred up. He alone was actually able to make several half-step sovereigns protect him. Such might was truly heaven-defying. It was no wonder that he was able to stand side by side with the Li clan's ancestor. However, if these people knew the real reason behind the protector's actions, they would probably laugh out loud. In the sky, Xiao Yan and Li Gan completely ignored the commotion and exclamations from the crowd below. Their eyes met and they remained silent. Suddenly, a sharp glint flashed across Li Gan's sinister old eyes. Soon after, the aura from his body suddenly swept out like a tidal wave, transforming into a majestic mountain that suddenly pressed down on Xiao Yan. He wanted to use his aura to forcefully suppress Xiao Yan. A cold snort was emitted from Xiao Yan's nose in the face of this. The strength of the heavenly flame within the vortex within his body suddenly erupted. A hot flame aura suddenly swept out from within Xiao Yan's body. The terrifying flame aura carried a frightening pressure that could incinerate the heavens. It formlessly transformed into a towering giant ruler. With a wave of the giant ruler, it viciously smashed towards the majestic mountain. A muffled bang quietly sounded out from the empty space. Li Gan's wrinkled old face also became somewhat solemn at this moment. Xiao Yan's aura made him feel incomparably strange. His aura contained an incomparable flame energy. Even this part of the world was affected by his aura. This was also the reason why Li Gan was secretly at a disadvantage. Xiao Yan's face was as calm as the wind and clouds as he looked at Li Gan. It was as though everything had nothing to do with him. This caused Li Gan to feel even more humiliated in his heart. His desire to kill Xiao Yan also became increasingly dense. The muscles at the corner of Li Gan's eyes twitched. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Xiao Yan. A moment later, he coldly snorted again. With a wave of his sleeve, a light flashed in his wide palm. Immediately, a large golden blade appeared in his hand. With a wave of his arm, the large golden blade carried an aura that could tear apart the sky as it streaked across the sky. Immediately after, it stood diagonally to the right of Li Gan's body, as if it was fixed in the empty space without moving. Humph! Little fellow, you do have some ability. However, I wonder if you will be able to receive this blade from the old me. Before his voice sounded, Li Gan's right arm suddenly waved. The large golden blade also instantly tore through the empty space. Waves of sonic booms caused the expressions of everyone in the city below to change instantly. A buzzing sound continued to reverberate in their minds. A cold wind swept apart, blowing until the clothes on Xiao Yan's body were tightly stuck to the surface of his body. However, that pair of bright eyes stared intently at the golden blade in Li Gan's hand. His eyes did not even turn the slightest bit. Ha! Come and have a taste of this blade of the old me. One fury. / wild tide. Before his voice sounded, a do-chi wave that came from all directions suddenly shot out from the tip of the golden blade. It carried the might of the world as it swept toward Xiao Yan. Immediately, a drizzle began to fall from the sky. The do technique that Li Gan was currently using was actually extremely powerful. It was actually able to rely on its aura to stir an unusual phenomenon. This kind of might could really be called frightening. However, all of this was far from enough in Xiao Yan's eyes. It was merely a Tian-class do technique. He believed that by relying on the strength of his heavenly flame, he would be able to completely destroy it in one strike. With a wave of his large sleeve, the heavenly flame within his body surged wildly until it reached his palm. The incomparably hot, heavenly flame transformed into a large fire dragon that instantly spat out from Xiao Yan's palm. The beautiful flame swiftly agglomerated and changed. In merely an instant, it had already transformed into a large fire ruler that emitted a frighteningly high temperature. The moment the large ruler was formed, the drizzle that had been falling from the sky earlier suddenly disappeared at this moment. On the contrary, a kind of dryness that caused one to have difficulty enduring burned everyone's bodies. The moisture in the air seemed to have been forcefully sucked away by the large ruler in an instant. Even breathing had become as difficult and unbearable as torture in the human world at this moment. Xiao Yan, who was standing in the sky, stared intently at the do-chi wave. Until a certain moment, a bright fire glow suddenly shot out from Xiao Yan's eyes. The large ruler in his hand was also swung out in an instant. The instant the large ruler was swung out, the sky shattered with a bang. The endless high temperature was something that even this empty space had difficulty enduring. The might of a heavenly flame was really frightening. The ability to burn the sky was not empty words. A ruler suddenly swept across the sky with a bang. A brilliant ruler glow that was 1,000 feet wide instantly shot toward the do-chi wave. In merely an instant, the distance between the two had already been swiftly reduced. There was only a short 10 feet gap left. In the next instant, these two frightening do techniques with earth-shaking might finally collided with a bang in front of the tens of thousands of eyes in the city. Bang! An earth-shaking explosion suddenly resounded over the sky above this savage ancient city. Soon after, an extremely frightening do-chi storm suddenly swept apart from the spot where the do techniques collided. The sky shook and the empty space shattered wherever the storm passed. The area where the two of them stood had completely transformed into a dark, deep, endless empty space. Everyone in the city had a drastic change in expression when they saw this scene. If this storm was allowed to completely sweep over the city, it was likely that this savage ancient city would completely disappear from history today. And they, too, would inevitably be buried with history. While everyone's expressions had turned ashen and their hearts were helplessly waiting for death, over 10 different colored do-chi lights suddenly flashed out from all directions within the savage ancient city. They instantly paused in the empty space. Among these 10+ lights were the group of Bandi experts who had come into contact with Xiao Yan yesterday. Among them, there was an old man whose body was the brightest and most eye-catching. He was the elder Xian from the Yunin Pavilion. These 10+ human figures raised their eyes to look at the frightening collision in the sky. Thoughts continued to churn within their hearts. The old man who had come into contact with Xiao Yan yesterday was currently looking at Xiao Yan with a grave expression. There was even a slight fear that surged deep within his eyes. This old man admitted that he did not have the strength to face off against Xiao Yan. However, Looking at the relaxed face of Xiao Yan at this moment, he did not have the confidence to completely receive that earth-shaking attack from Xiao Yan earlier. Although he was also a 3-star bandit, the gap between him and Xiao Yan was like the difference between the sky and the earth. If he were to fight with Xiao Yan, he was certain that he would not have any chance of victory. The old man helplessly sighed. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. Soon after, a Do Chi light instantly appeared above his head. It was like a wave that swiftly spread apart, covering the entire sky. At this moment, the other bandit experts around this old man did the same. Numerous Do Chi ripples of different colors swiftly spread apart, covering the entire savage ancient city and the area within a 10,000-kilometer radius around it. That frightening Do Chi storm finally came to a stop in front of this Do Chi barrier. Everyone in the city was safe and sound. After the storm scattered, Xiao Yan still had a relaxed appearance in the sky. There was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth as he looked at Li Gan. These two people were actually evenly matched in the two clashes today. It was likely that a big battle would be unavoidable in the future. As for Li Gan, he was so infuriated by Xiao Yan's appearance that he felt an incomparable pain in his heart. Today he, a grand 6-star half-martial emperor, had actually been repeatedly humiliated before the eyes of tens of thousands of people. Furthermore, the person who had caused all of this was actually a mere 3-star half-martial emperor brat. How could he possibly endure this? Bastard! This old man does not believe that this old man, a 6-star bandit, cannot take care of you. Humph! Do you really think that the gap in strength between bandit experts is so easy to make up for? Today, this old man will first cripple you, and then make you suffer. Die for this old man. After spitting out those vicious words, Li Gan's face was distorted as he once again waved his sleeve. His right hand held the large golden blade. His body suddenly flashed, and he once again slashed towards Xiao Yan. Let's make up for yesterday's loss. There's another update tonight. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 476668761. Chapter 108. Die! Before Li Gan's voice sounded, his body had already arrived beside Xiao Yan in a flash. The large golden blade in his hand ferociously hacked down furiously at Xiao Yan. The turbulent Do Chi within Li Gan's body swiftly covered the golden blade in his hand, causing the might of the golden blade to become even more ferocious. The golden light on the blade also became even more resplendent. After being illuminated by the sunlight, the golden blade was like a scorching sun as it smashed down on Xiao Yan's head. The strong and ferocious wind caused the hair on Xiao Yan's head to part to the side. Xiao Yan's scalp also felt a piercing pain as though it was being pierced by needles, causing Xiao Yan to involuntarily frown. Xiao Yan did not dare to be the slightest bit careless in his heart. Although he was confident in his ability to fight against a 6-star half-emperor, he still needed to weigh the pros and cons of such a swift and violent attack. Otherwise, he had encountered quite a few situations where he failed miserably at an easy task. Within the vortex within Xiao Yan's body, the Do Chi rapidly circulated to his lower body. Following which, Xiao Yan's feet moved and he instantly activated the sky extinction step. Ha! Chop for me! As the blade fell, Xiao Yan's body was instantly cut into two by the incomparably sharp golden blade. This caused everyone in the city below to feel an endless shock in their hearts. However, in the next instant, it instantly caused laughter to erupt from the city. When the golden blade passed by, Xiao Yan's body was instantly torn apart. Soon after, it disappeared from this empty space. At this moment, Li Gan's expression had finally become as dark and solemn as water. His eyes were filled with an endless amount of murderous intent. The golden blade in Li Gan's hand had only destroyed Xiao Yan's afterimage. However, even though this was the case, he still attacked with such ferocious force. He had truly thought that this was Xiao Yan's real body. This eyesight of his was truly a waste of his life. Compared to the laughter of everyone in the city below, the expressions of the dozen half-emperors in the sky had instantly turned grave at this moment. Xiao Yan's agility was so fast that even they would have difficulty discovering him. When Xiao Yan had left earlier, they were actually unable to see him at all. Such speed was truly frightening to the extreme. Elder Xian, who was standing in the sky, revealed a strange expression when he saw Xiao Yan's afterimage, unlike the others. Elder Xian's eyes narrowed as he stared at a certain empty space in the sky. There seemed to be something there. Teske. Never would I have imagined that the sky extinction steps that the four great sects had been searching for 100 years to no avail would actually end up in Yan Zhao's hands. Heh, no wonder you possess the ability to contend against an 8-star half-emperor. This sky extinction step truly lives up to its name. From the looks of it, Yan Zhao has likely only obtained it for a short period of time. Yet, he is actually able to erupt with such a frightening speed. If you are able to successfully master it, I really wonder what kind of frightening existence you will be. When Elder Xian stared at the empty space, there seemed to be a pair of eyes that met with Elder Xian's eyes. After being slightly shocked for an instant, the two of them came to a tacit understanding and did not do anything else. Ha! Suddenly, an earth-shaking cry was suddenly emitted from behind Li Gan. A huge fist that emitted a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared from the space behind Li Gan. The fist violently smashed towards Li Gan's back. Li Gan was also shocked by this sudden attack for an instant. However, he was after all an experienced person. After an instant, the fear on his face was completely swept away. Li Gan's body forcefully turned. In an extremely strange instant, he twisted his body. The dou qi in his body suddenly shook. Immediately, it swiftly gathered on his palm like a spring. He threw a palm out and violently collided with Xiao Yan's fist. With a bang, Li Gan's body suddenly trembled. He did not expect that Xiao Yan's strength would actually be so great. His body involuntarily took half a step back. However, an instant later, Li Gan suddenly waved the golden blade in his other hand and violently chopped at the huge golden fist. Rushing thunder chop. As the blade fell, a frightening thunderbolt followed. Before the blade arrived, the thunderbolt arrived first. The attack had already violently smashed onto the huge fist. Immediately, Xiao Yan involuntarily felt his arm become numb. Even the golden glow on the enormous golden-colored fist had become a little dim. Li Gan could not help but rejoice in his heart when he saw this scene. With a thought, another 1,000-feet thunderbolt that was even thicker than the one before instantly fell. It once again smashed towards the huge golden fist. A slight chi sound was quietly emitted. The 1,000-feet thunderbolt that had just smashed onto Xiao Yan's huge golden fist suddenly disappeared as though it had fallen into an endless abyss. The attack of Li Gan's subordinates could not help but stop for an instant because of this strange scene. Xiao Yan just happened to use this instant to completely eliminate the numbness on his arm. With a cold snort, Xiao Yan's fist suddenly attacked once again. As the huge fist passed, the empty space was broken. Even this originally empty space actually emitted a clear shattering sound at this moment. 8th-level collapse. Ha! Bang! The sound of flesh colliding suddenly rang out. Li Gan's body also instantly flew backwards. At the same time, the sound of bones breaking also rang out from Li Gan's body. Under this punch, several of Li Gan's bones were actually forcefully broken. This was enough to show the power contained in Xiao Yan's punch. Explode! A sonorous and powerful voice was once again emitted from Xiao Yan's mouth. One could hear a bang sound once again emitting from Li Gan's body as he flew backwards. His body once again flipped a couple of times in the air uncontrollably. Immediately, he pulled back 500 kilometers before spitting out blood and stopping his body. When he looked at Xiao Yan, his eyes were filled with astonishment. What exactly happened in that attack just now? When Xiao Yan forced Li Gan back with a punch, he slowly revealed his body from the empty air. He smiled in his heart and said in his heart, "Don't worry. Little fellow, you have finally woken up after being in a slumber for so long. Haha, from the looks of it, you have obtained quite a lot of benefits from that thread of spatial strength. Not only have you completely recovered your strength, but you have also reached the peak of the 8-star Dou Shang class. Haha, this can be considered an unexpected surprise." At this moment, Xiao Yan was naturally referring to Xiao Jin, who had been in a slumber for a long time. It was unexpected that Xiao Jin would actually wake up at such a critical moment. This had saved Xiao Yan a lot of trouble. At this moment, a lightning dragon with flickering golden thunderbolts all over Xiao Yan's body was flipping and dancing within Xiao Yan's body. It appeared to be quite happy. Some silver-white spatial strength occasionally flashed around its body, causing this little fellow to appear even more mysterious. Xiao Yan casually exchanged a couple of words with Xiao Jin. After which, he once again withdrew his mind and turned his eyes towards Li Gan, who was 1,000 kilometers away. Although Xiao Yan had struck Li Gan with a punch, this Li Gan still possessed the strength of a 6-star half-emperor. That little attack would at the very most cause some external injuries. Even if he suffered some internal injuries, they would not be considered serious injuries. It was really nothing to people at their level. Ha! A furious roar that contained a bloody aura was once again emitted from Li Gon's mouth. At this moment, Li Gon had truly entered a berserk state. The humiliation today could be said to be the most unbearable in his entire life. Hence, the current Xiao Yan had already been included in the list of people who must die in his heart. Li Gon's body once again flashed and instantly disappeared from this empty space. It was as though he had never appeared. At the same time, the empty space in front of Xiao Yan once again shattered. An extremely sharp golden blade instantly traversed the distance of 1,000 kilometers and appeared in front of Xiao Yan. A blade descended towards Xiao Yan's head. Xiao Yan was not to be outdone. A cold smile appeared on his face as the heavenly flame once again appeared in his palm. It rapidly gathered and Xiao Yan waved his large sleeve. A ruler was violently swung out and collided with the golden blade. In merely a short moment, the two of them had already exchanged over 100 blows. Both of them had suffered injuries. However, if one were to look carefully, one would be able to discover that Li Gon's clothes were already in tatters. The surface of his body was also covered in patches of green and purple. There were even large areas of his skin that had been burned by the flames. His entire person appeared as though he had been thrown into a bonfire and roasted. He was in an extremely sorry state. Compared to Li Gon, although Xiao Yan's clothes were also in tatters, it was clear that Li Gon's attacks had only damaged Xiao Yan's clothes. With the protection of the Sky Annihilation Steps, Xiao Yan was able to dodge all of Li Gon's attacks if he used his full strength. At this moment, Li Gon was feeling even more furious in his heart. He was a 6-star half-martial emperor. Yet, he had been injured to such a state by a 3-star half-martial emperor. How could he possibly accept this? However, at this moment, he was feeling rather helpless in his heart. Xiao Yan's agility was extremely fast. It was definitely not something that he could catch up to. With such speed, it was likely that even an 8-star half-martial emperor would not lose to him if he used his full strength. Unfortunately, while Li Gon was still thinking about how to deal with Xiao Yan no longer had the patience to continue. In today's battle, Xiao Yan only wanted to estimate his own strength. Fighting against a 6-star half-martial emperor was already enough to put him in an undefeatable position. Therefore, there was no need for him to continue playing around. With a move of his body, Xiao Yan's figure instantly retreated over 1,000 miles. Flames surged within his eyes. With a wave of his large sleeve, surging heavenly flames instantly swept out. The seals in his hand rapidly changed. From the looks of the seals, it was Xiao Yan's second famous Do skill, Angry Buddha Reincarnation. Chapter 109. Two human figures stood in the sky 100,000 feet above the savage ancient city. At this moment, the aura of one of them, who appeared quite young, was surging all over his body. Soaring Do Qi crazily surged out from within his body and gathered in his palm. As the Do Qi within his body continued to gather, threads of natural energy visible to the naked eye began to appear from the empty space. They turned into a wave of energy torrent that poured into the palm of this man. A fierce flame that could burn the sky swept out from within his body like a tidal wave, covering the entire sky. The entire place suddenly became dry and hot at this moment. At this moment, if one were to raise one's head to look from the ground, the entire sky seemed to have turned into an endless sea of fire. It caused one to feel a hot feeling surge into one's heart when one looked at it. A Bandi expert was really terrifying. Such a mighty Do skill was the most terrifying one that they had ever seen in their lives. In the sky, Li Gon's expression changed a little when he looked at Xiao Yan. Clearly, the Do skill that Xiao Yan was currently displaying caused even him to involuntarily feel some worry in his heart. This was merely the initial display of the Do skill, yet it was already able to attract such a might. It was really impossible to know just what kind of frightening scene it would be when this Do skill was completely agglomerated. Li Gon's eyes stared at the change in Xiao Yan's palm. He could vaguely see that there was a thumb-sized mysterious black-colored light spot in Xiao Yan's palm. The frightening natural energy and Xiao Yan's Do Qi were completely swallowed by the black-colored light spot. That mysterious black-colored light spot was like a bottomless pit. No matter how frightening the energy was, it would be completely swallowed into it. This scene caused the hairs all over Li Gon's body to stand. He immediately felt a sense of danger in his heart. If he were to allow Xiao Yan to continue in this manner, It was likely that he would not even have the chance to escape once he attacked. If he wanted to defeat Xiao Yan now, he must first forcefully interrupt the Do skill that Xiao Yan was currently using. Otherwise, the consequences were definitely not something that he could endure. With this thought in mind, a ruthless look suddenly flashed across Li Gan's eyes. He suddenly waved the large golden blade in his hand. With a move of his body, he once again charged towards Xiao Yan. Thousands of Li Gan dodged in an instant. In the next moment, Li Gan's full-strength attack had already arrived above Xiao Yan's head. It was merely an inch away from Xiao Yan's scalp. Xiao Yan could even clearly feel the sharpness of the golden blade. If this blade really fell, perhaps he, Xiao Yan, would be split in half on the spot. Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed into a thin line. The expression on his face also became increasingly cold. Have you begun your final struggle? Unfortunately, everything that you have done is useless. Back then, I had already said that as long as you do not provoke me, I will naturally be too lazy to bother with you. The current situation is something that you have brought upon yourself. If you want to blame someone, blame that extremely stupid grandson of yours. This thought flashed across Xiao Yan's heart. His body, which was standing in the air, suddenly flashed and disappeared from the sky. At the same time, a certain space 1,000 miles away distorted. Xiao Yan's body once again appeared. The seals in his hands were also rapidly changing. He was not affected by Li Gan at all. Li Gan's attack, which contained all of his aura, had once again missed. The speed of Xiao Yan's agility was not something that a 6-star half-emperor could compare with. Today, it was likely that he, Li Gan, could only watch as Xiao Yan successfully condense the Do skill in his hand. At that time, it would likely be the time of Li Gan's death. When he thought of this, even though Li Gan was an old fellow who had lived for an unknown number of years, a dense fear involuntarily rose in his heart. However, in the next moment, a cold smile suddenly flashed across his deathly pale face. The smile at the corner of his mouth caused others to feel abnormally disgusted. Li Gan also slowly withdrew the golden blade in his hand. It was as if the Do skill in Xiao Yan's hand had nothing to do with him. He stood straight in the air and looked at Xiao Yan with a cold smile. A long while later, Li Gan coldly smiled at Xiao Yan and said, "Don't tell me that you really want to forcefully kill the old me in this savage ancient city today?" Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned when he heard these words. His face also revealed a suspicious expression. Li Gan's action earlier was naturally seen by Xiao Yan. However, it also caused Xiao Yan's relaxed heart to involuntarily be slowly raised. After pausing for a moment, Xiao Yan coldly replied to Li Gan, "You can't blame me for this. You can't blame me for all of this. If you didn't provoke me, I wouldn't have bothered to touch you. It's just a pity that your grandson isn't a grandson enough. He insisted on making you, his grandfather, touch me." When these words of Xiao Yan were spoken, everyone in the city below involuntarily let out a burst of laughter. They were greatly provoked by these words of Xiao Yan. The expressions of the few half-emperor experts in the sky became increasingly solemn at this moment. The eyes with which they looked at Xiao Yan were also filled with incomparable shock and fear. It was not because of these laughable words of Xiao Yan. Instead, it was because of the beautiful circular fireplate that was filled with a frightening flame strength in Xiao Yan's hand at this moment. At a glance, the circular plate did not appear to be anything special. However, the frightening flame strength still caused this dark black world to become incomparably hot even in the endless empty space. The people in the city were protected by them and were naturally unable to clearly sense it. However, with their strength, how could they not know how frightening that flame was? Immediately, a few of the half-emperor experts opened their mouths and spoke in surprise. Just what kind of natural divine flame is that flame? Don't tell me that it is a natural, heavenly flame, on the heavenly flame ranking. Otherwise, how could it possess such a frightening flame strength? This old man doesn't think so. If it is a heavenly flame, how could its color be so chaotic? I'm afraid that it is some kind of beast flame that we are not familiar with. When Elder Xian looked at Xiao Yan, a grave expression involuntarily appeared in his eyes. Luo Jin had already told him about how powerful Xiao Yan was. However, at that time, it was only Luo Jin's words and he did not dare to completely believe them. In his heart, he still had some doubts about Xiao Yan's true fighting strength. Even when he saw Xiao Yan use the Sky Extinction Step earlier, he had only guessed that Xiao Yan would be able to contend against an 8-star half-emperor. However, from the looks of it now, It was not impossible for Xiao Yan to forcefully kill an 8-star half-emperor expert if he wanted to. However, from the fire disc in Xiao Yan's hand at this moment, Elder Xian was able to confirm that the level of this Do technique was likely a man-class Do technique. Even if he were to face it, he would definitely need to be careful. Just how frightening a man-class Do technique was something that Elder Xian, who had come from the middle region, was definitely not unfamiliar with. Currently, the angry Buddha reincarnation in Xiao Yan's hand was nearing its end. Xiao Yan's expression had also become somewhat pale at this moment. Clearly, Xiao Yan had used all his strength to unleash the angry Buddha reincarnation this time around. The strength of this angry Buddha reincarnation would definitely be the strongest angry Buddha reincarnation ever since Xiao Yan had created it. Humph. Brat, even if you are able to forcefully kill the old me, are you certain that the tens of thousands of people in the savage ancient city will be able to survive? Suddenly, Li Gan's somewhat hoarse voice was once again emitted, causing everyone present to involuntarily turn their gazes over. After hearing Li Gan's words, the expressions of everyone in the city changed slightly. Clearly, they already had some understanding of how frightening the disc in Xiao Yan's hand was. Since this Do technique of Xiao Yan's was able to forcefully kill Li Gan, a 6-star half-emperor, there was no need to even talk about ordinary experts like them. After hearing this, the 10+ half-emperors in the sky emitted a cold snort. Clearly, they were quite dissatisfied with Li Gan's belittling of their strength. After hearing this, the corner of Li Gan's mouth once again emitted a cold smile. Immediately, he opened his mouth and laughed out loud. That's right, that's right. The old me had nearly forgotten. With the protection of so many half-emperors, this brat's attack will naturally be unable to harm the people in the city. Before the expressions of everyone in the city could warm up after these words were spoken, Li Gan's expression suddenly became crazy. With a cold smile, he once again opened his mouth to speak. Hence, the old me can only die. Since this is the case, even if the old me dies, I will definitely bring this brat along to accompany the old me in death. After Li Gan's words were spoken, the faces of everyone in the city became suspicious. However, the 10+ half-emperors in the sky involuntarily twitched the corner of their mouths intensely after hearing these words. The gazes with which they looked at Li Gan were filled with disdain. The 10+ half-emperors exchanged glances with each other. All of them saw the disdain in each other's eyes. Clearly, the half-emperors present were quite familiar with what Li Gan was going to do next. When everyone turned their heads around and looked at Li Gan once again, they involuntarily shook their heads and sighed in their hearts. This move again. Looks like this old ghost Li Gan will once again be able to avoid a calamity today. This thought had just flashed across everyone's hearts when Li Gan's expression in the sky became increasingly ruthless. He once again turned his gaze towards Xiao Yan and laughed coldly. The old me knows that the strength of this move of yours is sufficient to directly kill the old me. It is likely that this Do technique of yours has already reached the level of a human-class Do technique. The old me also admits that I do not possess a Do technique of such strength. Hence, since I wish to kill you, the old me can only choose the path of self-destruction. Xiao Yan's expression instantly changed after Li Gan's words were emitted. The self-destruction of a half-emperor was really no joke. If he was really allowed to successfully self-destruct, it was likely that everything within a 10,000-mile radius of the savage ancient city would be turned into nothingness. Even if these so-called half-emperors wanted to receive this life-risking attack, it was likely that they would not be able to preserve their lives without paying a sufficiently great price. From this, one could tell just how frightening the self-destruction of a half-emperor was. The most important thing for Xiao Yan was that the teleportation formation that led to the western region was still within the savage ancient city. If the savage ancient city was destroyed, where would he go to find it? This Li Gan was really using the entire savage ancient city to threaten Xiao Yan. Chapter 110. Are you threatening me? Li Gan's threat with his life also caused Xiao Yan to feel a little angry in his heart. In his life, the thing he hated the most was being threatened by others. Li Gan's actions had really touched his reverse scale. A cold smile was revealed on Li Gan's face when he heard Xiao Yan's words, which contained anger. Xiao Yan's fury at this moment was exactly what he wanted. As long as Xiao Yan had scruples about anyone or anything in the ancient savage city, Xiao Yan would definitely not allow the ancient savage city to be destroyed. Moreover, he would be able to remain safe and sound. As for the matter of killing Xiao Yan, Li Gan had naturally already remembered it in his heart. Although he was unable to kill Xiao Yan, there were many experts in the world. As long as he could add fuel to the fire, those who wanted to kill Xiao Yan would naturally line up to find him. As he thought of this in his heart, the smile on Li Gan's face became increasingly obvious. The gaze with which he looked at Xiao Yan also became increasingly disdainful. This also caused Xiao Yan to become even more furious in his heart. The dozen over half-emperors in the sky also saw the fury in Xiao Yan's heart. They also laughed bitterly in their hearts. At this moment, Li Gan had already used this shameless fighting method more than a dozen times. However, it could be said to be successful every time. It caused many people who had the ability to kill him to return empty-handed in the end. The reason for this was because of the city that everyone was in at this moment, the ancient Savage City. The ancient Savage City was the largest city in the southwest region. There were no less than hundreds of thousands of residents in it. If one were to add up the number of people in the surrounding small cities, it was likely that there would be no less than 800,000 people. As a city with such a terrifying number of people, there was naturally no need to mention how prosperous it was. Hence, there were also countless outsiders. Just the daily flow of people would likely exceed 1 million. Moreover, there were no less than 10,000 younger generation experts who had come out to train. Hence, no one present knew just how many factions there were within the ancient Savage City. However, one could understand that behind these people, there was definitely an existence that was not below the bandit class. It was likely that there were even quite a number of genuine Do D-class experts. And now, the alchemist competition was already right before their eyes. The ancient city of Wilderness was also filled with mixed forces and elites. It could be said that it had reached its true peak after so many years. The weight of this matter could be seen at a glance. Therefore, if Li Gan really self-destructed in the ancient Savage City, the entire city would be reduced to nothingness. As for the younger generation of those great powers, they would definitely disappear from this world. At that time, it would be the time of Xiao Yan's death. The deaths of those people would definitely be blamed on him. Xiao Yan would also be chased by the entire southern region and even the factions from other regions. However, this was not a situation that Xiao Yan wished to see. After all, just the Ghost Temple Gate alone was enough for Xiao Yan to suffer. The current him was unable to stir up such a big storm. Could it be that he was just going to let Li Gan off? Xiao Yan was unwilling in his heart. Since he had touched his reverse scale, this Li Gan must die. Even an 8-star bandit had died in Xiao Yan's hands. Li Gan was merely a 6-star bandit. Why would he, Xiao Yan, not be able to kill him? However, after some thought, the current situation was not something that Xiao Yan could do as he pleased. A slight mistake would result in him being consigned to eternal damnation. Xiao Yan struggled in his heart for a moment. He also thought of forcefully asking Guyu to attack. Unfortunately, the only response he received was a deathly silence. Although Guyu was strong, he was too principled. Currently, there was no one in this ancient savage city who could dictate everything. Xiao Yan laughed bitterly in his heart. The seal in his hand changed as he gave up on the opportunity to kill Li Gan. Li Gan coldly smiled as he looked at Xiao Yan. At this moment, his heart was incomparably carefree. He loved to see the inner struggle of his enemy. His enemy clearly had the ability to kill him, but did not dare to do so. This really made his heart feel incomparably carefree. However, in the next moment, Xiao Yan's seal, which he was about to change, suddenly disappeared. He lifted his hand and the fire disc in his hand was aimed at Li Gan. At the middle of the disc, there was a thumb-sized dark black mysterious light that was emitting a deep dark light. Li Gan's eyes suddenly widened when he saw this scene. A shocked expression appeared on his face. He hurriedly opened his mouth and roared at Xiao Yan. "Brat! Do you really intend to turn into ashes along with the tens of thousands of people in this ancient savage city?" The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth revealed an extremely icy cold smile when he saw this. An icy voice was slowly emitted from his mouth. "I only want to crush you. Why would I harm the innocent? Moreover, do you really think that you will have the chance to self-destruct?" Li Gan's expression changed once again when Xiao Yan said these words. His face was filled with surprise. After pausing for a moment, he finally opened his mouth and asked Xiao Yan, "What do you mean by this?" Xiao Yan once again emitted a cold laugh. The fire disc in his hand rapidly rotated. A frightening fire strength spread from the disc, causing the endless space to become incomparably hot. "Have you forgotten that in this ancient savage city, there is still someone who can kill you in an instant?" Li Gan's pupils suddenly shrank. He was also shocked by Xiao Yan's words for a moment. Someone who can kill him in an instant? Could the person that Xiao Yan was talking about be that person? It seems that you have also thought of it. Li Gan's heart trembled. He didn't expect Xiao Yan to drag that person out at this moment. However, it was immediately replaced by a cold laugh. So what if Senior is in this city? The matter between you and me has nothing to do with Senior. Even if this ancient savage city is really gone, it won't hurt Senior at all. You want to drag Senior down with you? Simply stupid. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth revealed a playful smile. His eyes flickered as he slowly opened his mouth and said, I'm not saying that Elder Luo will drag me down with you. I just want to ask Elder Luo to protect Senior's seclusion place. That's all. Humph, Senior, it's not something that you can just say. Without waiting for Li Gan's voice to fade, an old figure had already appeared in the space beside Xiao Yan. Looking at his appearance, it was the blacksmith master, Elder Luo. The moment Li Gan saw Elder Luo, his expression changed drastically. He didn't expect that Elder Luo would actually step in for a brat that he had only met once. It should be known that even he had never asked Elder Luo to leave his small courtyard. Exactly what method did this brat have to attract a senior like Elder Luo? Elder Luo casually glanced at Li Gan, who was in a sorry state, and snorted softly. He then turned his head to look at Xiao Yan, who was beside him. He curled his lips and softly reprimanded Xiao Yan. Brat, you have a sharp tongue. If it wasn't for the fact that I have received a favor from you, I wouldn't have bothered with you. Xiao Yan smiled embarrassedly. In any case, this little old man had finally stepped in. Today, Li Gan wouldn't be able to escape death. The expressions of the countless number of people below instantly became interesting when they heard old Luo's words. How could everyone not know that Xiao Yan was able to get old Luo to say such words? Since this was the case, just what kind of rare natural treasure had Xiao Yan given old Luo? I wrote it wrong again. However, since the content is out, I'll still say the same thing. Please add it. Please recommend it. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 111. After old Luo and Xiao Yan finished speaking, old Luo's gaze once again landed on Li Gan. The corners of his mouth lifted into a disdainful smile as he spoke with an indifferent tone. Originally, this old man was too lazy to bother with this matter. However, I heard that you wanted to self-destruct and destroy this old man's place of seclusion. Thus, I felt a little dissatisfied in my heart and wanted to come out and talk to you. May I know if this is true? After he finished speaking, old Luo's face revealed a lazy expression as he yawned. Only then did he continue to glance at Li Gan. When Li Gan heard old Luo's words, his expression changed again and again. In the end, it turned pale white without any trace of blood. With old Luo's appearance, he, Li Gan, had already lost all of his chances today. If he did not have anything that he could use to threaten Xiao Yan, then today would definitely be the day of his death. If he wanted to continue living, there was only one path left. That was to apologize to Xiao Yan and do his best to obtain his forgiveness. Additionally, old Luo was still beside him. It was likely that Xiao Yan would more or less let him off because of old Luo. However, when he thought of how he, a 6-star half-martial emperor, had to lower his voice and apologize to a mere 3-star half-martial emperor brat, Li Gan immediately felt extremely humiliated in his heart. Fortunately, the desire to live finally caused Li Gan to forcefully suppress the endless resentment he had for Xiao Yan in the bottom of his heart. After all, if he were to really die here today, not only would he be unable to vent the resentment in his heart, even the enormous clan behind him would definitely be swept away in an instant. This was something that Li Gan could not easily give up on. This was especially so when his grandson was involved. How could he be willing to do so? After hesitating for a moment, Li Gan finally hardened his heart. His pair of bloody eyes that were filled with endless resentment slowly closed. The wild and violent Do Qi that swept over his body was also forcefully withdrawn into his body. It was a long while later before Li Gan once again slowly opened his eyes. The expression on his face had also become warm as he looked at Xiao Yan. The muscles at the corner of his mouth forcefully pulled out a seemingly gentle smile. His pair of old eyes were also replaced by embarrassment. He coughed twice and said to Xiao Yan, "Ha ha ha ha, my friend, everything that happened today is just a misunderstanding. When this old man returns, I will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly." Today's battle between you and me, let's treat it as an exchange of blows, no concord. In the future we will be friends. Ha 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 ha. Oh? Investigate? This old man thinks that there's no need to investigate. Your grandson was slapped by this old man. That little thing was talking about you in front of this old man. This old man couldn't stand it, so I slapped him. Don't tell me you want to return the favor? The moment Li Gon's words left his mouth, Elder Luo looked at Li Gon with sleepy eyes and said softly. When Li Kong heard this, his pupils suddenly shrank. He was originally just saying those words. What? The injuries on Li Kang's body were really caused by Elder Luo? Li Gon hurriedly cupped his hands and smiled back at Elder Luo. His face was also incomparably embarrassed. He suddenly turned around and viciously grabbed at the boundary that was set up by the many half-emperor experts. With a loud bang, it shattered. Immediately after, Li Kang's figure was pulled up by Li Gon. When Li Kong saw the gloomy expression on his grandfather's face, he was involuntarily startled. When he saw Elder Luo standing beside Xiao Yan, Li Kong instantly seemed to have understood something. Unfortunately, before he could say anything, Li Gon ruthlessly slapped his face. In an instant, half of Li Kang's face rapidly swelled up and became blood red. Fresh blood continuously flowed out from his mouth and nose. A bright red 5-fingerprint was incomparably clearly imprinted on Li Kang's face. Speak. The injuries on your body, were they really caused by Brother Yan Xiao? With Elder Luo in front and Xiao Yan's prestige, Li Gon admitted his mistake in such a natural and smooth manner. With a single sentence, his relationship with Xiao Yan became much closer. It was as if the two of them were old friends who had known each other for many years. When Li Kong heard Li Gon's furious words, the expression on his face abruptly changed. It was a long while later before he shook his head while trembling. Pah! Another slap resounded through the sky. Li Gon's heart was extremely pained. However, with Xiao Yan present, he had no choice but to be ruthless for once. Li Gon's face was gloomy. He did not know who caused it, but the skin at the corner of his eyes continuously trembled because of the fury in his heart. Apologize to Brother Yan Xiao. When these words were spoken, Li Kang's pupils instantly shrunk to the size of a needle tip. No matter how he thought about it, he did not expect that his grandfather would actually say such words to him. However, he was also incomparably clear about the exact situation in his heart. At this moment, he could not possibly allow his grandfather to personally apologize to Xiao Yan. If that was the case, he did not know if his situation would be any better when he returned. It was a long while later before Li Kong turned around to face Xiao Yan. Although he was apologizing, there was still a vicious glint flowing within his eyes. Finally, after pausing for a moment, Li Kong finally slowly bowed and apologized to Xiao Yan in front of everyone's gazes. At the same time, the pair of hands under his sleeves were tightly clenched together. Traces of fresh blood flowed down from between his fingers, indicating the emotions that were buried deep within his heart at this moment. Ha ha, Li Gon. This little fellow is a little unreasonable. This old man clearly heard earlier that you wanted that little fellow Yan Xiao to apologize. Since it is you now, you should also do the same, right? Since you have an apology, shouldn't you also take a look at your apology gift? Let me remind you that this little fellow's eyesight is quite good. Since he is able to take out something that has caused this old man to be extremely shocked, there is no need for this old man to say more about his sharp eyesight. You should also stop trying to fool others. Old Luo parted his mouth and laughed coldly when he saw this scene. When he opened his mouth once again, it caused the corner of Li Gon's mouth to twitch continuously. He even felt as though his heart was dripping blood. It was a long while later before Li Gon finally made up his mind. Since old Luo had spoken, he definitely wanted him to take out something. Moreover, from the meaning of his words, the thing that he took out must definitely not be inferior. Li Gon laughed awkwardly. He looked at old Luo with an embarrassed smile and said with a bitter smile, Elder, this junior did not bring any valuable items when he went out. Moreover, I'm afraid that Brother Yan Xiao would not even be interested in the little things that this junior has. When Luo Jin heard this, he once again let out a cold laugh. Immediately, the expression on his face suddenly became cold. He snorted coldly and said in a cold voice, Why, you don't have it? Then, take out your Void Lightning Pool invitation. When these words came out, the expression on Li Gon's face instantly froze. His entire person seemed to be fixed in the air and instantly became silent. Requesting collection. Requesting recommendation. Those who are interested, please enter the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 112. After Elder Luo's words left his mouth, Li Gan was completely stunned. He had never expected that Elder Luo would say such a long speech because of the Void Lightning Pool invitation in his hands. Elder Luo was indeed worthy of being called a true expert. Not only did Elder Luo poach Li Gan's resources, he had also done Xiao Yan a huge favor. At the very least, this was what Li Gan thought. However, to Elder Luo, the Void Lightning Pool invitation was just so. If it was not for the fact that this item could be of help to Xiao Yan, Elder Luo would not have bothered to say anything more. Even the dozen or so half-martial emperors below started to rejoice in their hearts when they saw this scene. They rejoiced that they did not provoke this demon-level genius. Even more so, they rejoiced that they did not provoke old Luo. However, on the other hand, these half-martial emperors were even more curious about Xiao Yan. Exactly what kind of rare natural treasure did he give Elder Luo in order for Elder Luo to take such good care of him? When Elder Xian saw this scene in the sky, he involuntarily frowned. Others might not know, but how could he not know? He had some relationship with Elder Luo. Even the Yunyin pavilion behind him was inextricably linked to Elder Luo. Although he did not dare to say that he knew Elder Luo's character, he knew a little about him. Elder Luo had experienced countless things in his life. Those who knew him were all people of great power. Even some of the truly powerful experts were on good terms with Elder Luo. Among them, there were countless people who wanted to ask Elder Luo to help them refine weapons. However, Elder Luo's standards were extremely high. Those who did not have the qualifications to refine weapons, regardless of how powerful they were or how powerful they were all ignored by Elder Luo. Even if there was someone who could ask Elder Luo to help them, Elder Luo would usually not give them any face. From this, one could see how rare the materials that could truly move Elder Luo were. However, Xiao Yan had actually managed to get old Luo to help him. Could it be that the crafting material that Xiao Yan had given old Luo was the last one in the continent? At this moment, Li Gan's face was filled with embarrassment. The Void Lightning Pool invitation was a once-in-a-century opportunity. He only had a few chances, so how could he be willing to give it up? The Void Lightning Pool invitation was formed by condensing the power of the Void Lightning Pool. One could use this invitation to enter the Void Lightning Pool once. As for that empty space lightning pool, it was an ancient lightning pool that had been condensed for countless years. The heavenly lightning within it was incomparably dense. If even a half-martial emperor were to properly absorb and refine the heavenly lightning after entering it, not only would the half-martial emperor's body receive an enormous increase in strength, even their soul's strength would be greatly increased. However, as the Void Lightning Pool floated in the boundless void, even half-martial emperors would not be able to detect it. As for the Void Lightning Pool invitation, it was formed by the heavenly lightning within the Void Lightning Pool. Every 100 years, 30 Void Lightning Pool invitation would fall from the Void Lightning Pool and scatter. At this time, many experts would come to search for it. As long as they managed to obtain it, they would be able to use the invitation to enter the Void Lightning Pool once. Of course, the power of a single Void Lightning Pool invitation was naturally not enough to open the path to the Void Lightning Pool. At this time, the owners of the Void Lightning Pool invitation had to take out their Void Lightning Pool invitation and gather the power of the 30 Void Lightning Pool invitation together before entering the Void Lightning Pool together. Only by doing so would one be able to enter the Void Lightning Pool and absorb and refine the heavenly lightning within it. As for how much heavenly lightning one could refine, that would depend on one's luck. A large part of the reason why Li Gan was able to possess his current strength was because he was lucky enough to enter the Void Lightning Pool twice. Now that he had such an opportunity again, Li Gan was naturally unwilling to give it up. He was certain in his heart that if he was able to enter the Void Lightning Pool this time around, he might even be able to use this opportunity to break through to a 7-star half-martial emperor. How could he possibly be willing to accept such a temptation? One must know that although there was only a difference of 1 star, how powerful was a half-martial emperor? A difference of 1 star was enough to overturn the entire battle situation. Not everyone could be as heaven-defying as Xiao Yan. He possessed so many man-tier do skills. If he were to go all out, he would naturally be able to fight against a high-level half-martial emperor. However, if he were to remove these, it was likely that his chances of victory against a 4-star half-martial emperor would not be high. Because of this, The temptation of the void lightning pool to people with strength like them was even more prominent. This was also the reason why old Luo had helped Xiao Yan ask for an apology. To Xiao Yan, the value of the void lightning pool invitation was a true temptation. Xiao Yan had also come to know about the void lightning pool invitation through old Luo's voice transmission. It was fine if he did not know about it earlier. However, at this moment, he understood it in his heart. A wave involuntarily rose in his eyes. Since it was such a rare item, he would naturally obtain it if he could. Xiao Yan would definitely not let go of this apology gift from Li Gan. Xiao Yan raised his eyes slightly and saw Li Gan's hesitant manner. However, a cold snort was emitted from his nose. His foot suddenly took a step forward and his right hand was instantly raised in front of his chest. The fire disc in his hand was also aimed at Li Gan. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind and the fire disc instantly began to rotate wildly. Waves of majestic natural energy also began to gather toward the disc in Xiao Yan's hand. Li Gan's body abruptly pulled back the instant he saw Xiao Yan's stance. At the same time, he also loudly shouted at Xiao Yan, "Little friend Yan Xiao, please do not attack. This void lightning pool invitation is already useless to me. So what if I give it to little friend Yan Xiao? How can there be an apology gift?" Although his words were insincere, Xiao Yan felt quite comfortable when he heard them. At the very least, this Li Gan was willing to give it to him. The corners of Xiao Yan's mouth lifted into a cold smile. His raised hand also slowly fell. If he did not give these people an appropriate blow, they would really not be willing to cooperate. Did they really think that he was so confident because he relied on old Luo? Li Gan was also quite frightened by Xiao Yan's attack. He was really afraid that Xiao Yan would really forcefully attack and directly end him here. If he were to die, the void lightning pool invitation would still end up in Xiao Yan's hands. Since this was the case, it was better to directly give it to him and save his old life first. A smile of praise involuntarily appeared on old Luo's old face when he saw this scene. Xiao Yan's character was so shrewd and ruthless. It was no wonder that he was able to ascend to such a peak position in this chaotic world. His character was firm and indomitable. He was decisive when doing things. Only such a man would be able to rise in this chaotic world and fight for a spot in the world. Chapter 113. When he saw Xiao Yan put down his hand again, Li Gan's tensed nerves relaxed a little. In his heart, he knew that no matter what, the void lightning pool invitation in his hand had to be handed over to Xiao Yan. At the same time, Li Gan also deeply remembered the humiliation that Xiao Yan had given him in his heart. He believed that there would come a day when he would return all of it to Xiao Yan. Li Gan took a deep breath in his chest and tried his best to calm his emotions. A moment later, a smile appeared on Li Gan's face. That smile was so peaceful that it was as though nothing had happened between him and Xiao Yan. Li Gan faced Xiao Yan. He flipped his right hand and a bright silver-colored invitation card appeared in Li Gan's palm out of nowhere. Immediately, the force in Li Gan's palm shook and the invitation card shot toward Xiao Yan. When Xiao Yan saw this, he extended his hand and used two of his fingers to break the force on the void lightning pool invitation. He caught it with his other hand and kept it without even looking at it. Xiao Yan knew that with Elder Luo watching from the side, Li Gan did not have the guts to do anything. Therefore he was quite relieved. Li Gan's face was filled with pain as he watched Xiao Yan keep the void lightning pool invitation that he had obtained with great difficulty. His heart also felt quite helpless. Since it had already landed in Xiao Yan's hands, he could only give it up. Li Gan bowed slightly and cupped his hands towards Elder Luo. After saying that he would take his leave, he turned around and left with Li Kong. However, just as he turned around, Xiao Yan's voice sounded out again. "Brother Li Gan, you're really leaving just like that? Could it be that you've forgotten that you still haven't given me an apology gift?" When Xiao Yan said these words, not only Li Gan, but even Elder Luo who was beside him, could not help but raise his eyebrows. "Apology gift? Didn't you take it just now? Why are you asking for it now? Do you really want to force me into a life and death struggle?" When Li Gan turned around, the expression on his face was a little gloomy. He had repeatedly made things difficult for Li Gan. He really wanted to force Li Gan to make a move. Xiao Yan still had a faint smile on his face as he looked at Li Gan. It was as though he was waiting for Li Gan to take the invitation. This expression and action of Xiao Yan, in addition to the fire circular plate that Xiao Yan had his eye on, caused Li Gan to not feel hot under the assault of the flame strength. Instead, He felt an icy cold feeling invade his heart. Xiao Yan knew that Li Gan could not think of anything else. However, with Elder Luo's shrewdness, he instantly understood the meaning behind Xiao Yan's words. Brother Li Gan, could it be that you have forgotten so quickly? Earlier, you said that this void lightning pool invitation was given to me by you. As for the compensation, it is naturally another matter. Don't you think so? The expression on Li Gan's face instantly stiffened when Xiao Yan's words left his mouth. Immediately, the corner of his mouth involuntarily twitched. The words he had said earlier were merely polite words he had said. Why did Xiao Yan take them seriously? Was he not digging a hole for himself to jump into? Although he became angrier the more he thought about it, Xiao Yan was currently guarded by Elder Luo. As long as Elder Luo was around, Elder Luo would not care even if Xiao Yan went overboard. When he thought of this, Li Gan could not help but feel an indescribable sense of humiliation. However, no matter how humiliating it was, in the end, it could not change the fact that he had been viciously tricked by Xiao Yan. Li Gan's hand once again flipped in the air. A palm-sized crystal stone appeared in Li Gan's palm. Li Gan looked at this crystal stone with a pained expression. He did not hesitate any longer. It was as though he was afraid that he would go back on his words. He directly lifted his hand and threw it at Xiao Yan. Looking at the way he threw the crystal stone, it was as though he was venting the emotions in his heart. This caused the people watching below to involuntarily laugh. When Xiao Yan randomly received the crystal stone, a bright expression quietly flashed across his eyes. Immediately, it was perfectly hidden. He lifted his head and revealed a warm smile to Li Gan. This caused the corners of Li Gan's mouth to twitch intensely. Immediately, the father and son duo said goodbye to Elder Luo and quickly left. The angry Buddha reincarnation in Xiao Yan's palm once again turned into waves of even purer and majestic Do Qi and returned to the vortex in Xiao Yan's body. After Li Gan and his father left, the dozen or so half-martial emperors below all flew up and stood in front of Elder Luo. They respectfully cupped their hands and bowed to Elder Luo. This scene caused everyone in the city below to sigh emotionally. It was really good to be an expert. No matter how arrogant a person was, they would still have to bow their heads in front of him and give the greeting of a junior. Of course, after these dozen or so half-emperors bowed to Elder Luo, they did not forget that Xiao Yan, who was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, was still present. One by one, they stepped forward and chatted with Xiao Yan. Even the 3-star half-emperor expert, who had once exchanged blows with Xiao Yan, still had some lingering fear on his face as he chatted with Xiao Yan. His attitude when facing Xiao Yan was extremely humble. Of course, Xiao Yan did not feel any pride in his heart. He knew that although he had the strength to challenge those of a higher level, it was under the premise that he had used all of his strength. After one attack, Xiao Yan would enter a period of weakness. Any half-emperor expert would be able to easily kill him. At this moment, the reason why these people treated him so respectfully was partly because of his strength, but more importantly, it was probably because of Elder Luo who had just left. The care that Elder Luo had shown to Xiao Yan had all been seen by them today. If Xiao Yan was really on good terms with Elder Luo, as long as he had the protection of an expert like Elder Luo, he would definitely become a powerful expert with endless strength in the future. At this moment, befriending Xiao Yan was equivalent to using Xiao Yan to befriend Elder Luo. What they were interested in was merely the hope that Elder Luo had for Xiao Yan. Strength was nothing. Even if he could not beat them, he could still hide. The continent was so big. What could not be hidden? Xiao Yan was too lazy to bother about these things. After chatting with these people for a while, he left by himself. After these half-emperors mocked and ridiculed each other for a while, they also dispersed. They were too lazy to bother about anything else. That night, a human figure quietly left this savage ancient city. He quickly flew towards the deep mountains and old forests outside the city. In merely a couple of breaths, he had already covered a distance of several thousand miles. Soon after, waves of ear-piercing sonic booms spread across the forest. Countless low-rank magical beasts were all forcefully killed by the frightening sonic booms. This night, which appeared to be calm, had turned into a bloody night. Chapter 114. Half a month's time quietly passed. The alchemist grand meeting was finally about to begin. At this moment, there were experts from various places gathering in the ancient savage city. Within a short couple of days, there were already over a dozen elite Ban Di Zun experts who had personally arrived at this ancient savage city. Their aim was naturally self-evident. All of them had come for the Alchemist Grand Meeting. From this, one could tell that the Alchemist Grand Meeting this time around was really quite powerful. Creak! The two wooden doors were slowly pushed open. A young man wearing a black robe slowly walked out from within. Although Xiao Yan had already reached middle age, he still maintained his appearance of being in his early 20s due to his bandy strength. At this moment, Xiao Yan's bright eyes looked towards the middle of the ancient savage city after exiting the inn. That place was the true core of this city. It was also the place where the true experts gathered. The Alchemist Grand Meeting would be held there. Haha, the opening ceremony of the Alchemist Grand Meeting will be in a couple of days. I should also go and take a look. I wonder if there will be any Band D level alchemists participating. If that is the case, it will really be interesting. A moment later, Xiao Yan's figure had already arrived at a bustling downtown area. At this moment, there was a huge pavilion in front of Xiao Yan that appeared like a medicinal cauldron. This pavilion was the Alchemist Association's meeting place in the ancient savage city. Those who could enter were either extremely powerful or high-tier alchemists. In a bustling city like the ancient savage city, one must at least possess the strength of a Do Sheng if one wished to enter the Alchemist Association. Even if one was an alchemist, one must possess the qualification to refine a Tier 8 medicinal pill if one wished to enter. Naturally, one's status was self-explanatory. A Tier 8 alchemist guru. Of course, under the great efforts of the Alchemist Association, there was naturally no one who dared to violate the rules here. After all, offending the Alchemist Association was equivalent to creating an endless number of enemies. No one would be foolish enough to do such a thing. In this place, even if one was a half-martial emperor, even if one was qualified to enter and leave this place and receive reverence, if one were to really violate the rules of this place, one would still suffer. Thus, the people here were very well behaved. Even the current Xiao Yan could not help but sigh in amazement at this golden club. Alchemists were indeed an extremely powerful group. Once they were united, even the strongest half-emperors in the outside world would have to obediently follow their rules. It was easy to see just how powerful alchemists were. The moment Xiao Yan stepped into the Alchemist Association, he was immediately surrounded by the fog-like pill fragrance without any surprise. However, this place was clearly different from his. This pill fragrance had undergone a special dilution, causing it to appear incomparably fragrant. It also inadvertently caused one's mood to become comfortable. Xiao Yan's entrance also attracted the attention of a portion of the people. However, they merely took a glance before ignoring Xiao Yan. There were countless half-emperors and alchemists entering and exiting this place every day. It was not as though there were no young alchemist gurus. To them, this was already a common sight and there was no need for them to pay attention to it. With regards to this, Xiao Yan also sought some peace and quiet. He had only come here to understand the different levels of alchemists in the Yuanwu continent. He had been here for quite some time, but he had yet to learn anything about alchemists. As an alchemist, Xiao Yan felt a little embarrassed in his heart. Just as he was about to lift his foot and walk towards the interior, a figure walked towards Xiao Yan. This person was the 3-star half-emperor expert who had exchanged blows with Xiao Yan the other day. A smile was revealed on Xiao Yan's face when he saw this person. Although this old man had a bad temper, he was still someone worth befriending. If Xiao Yan could establish a good relationship with him, he might be able to help him in some way. Brother Yan Xiao, haha, I never imagined that you would also come here. Oh, that's right, I saw you use that extremely powerful flame the other day. Don't tell me that you're also an alchemist? Before the old man arrived in front of Xiao Yan, his rough and heroic voice was already transmitted into Xiao Yan's ears like waves of thunder. It shook Xiao Yan to the point that a rumbling sound endlessly reverberated within his body. Xiao Yan faintly curled his lips. This fellow's character was truly unbearable for Xiao Yan. However, he still nodded his head in response. When the old man saw that Xiao Yan had actually nodded his head in response, another wave of praise involuntarily sounded from his mouth. The gaze he used to look at Xiao Yan with was akin to looking at a monster. At such a young age, he had forcefully raised both his alchemy skills and cultivation. This was truly shocking. Brother Yan Xiao is truly a genius. He can truly be called a monster. Ha 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 ha, to be able to obtain such achievements at such a young age, Brother Yan Xiao will definitely have a place in this year's Alchemist Grand Meeting. Who knows, Brother Yan Xiao might even become a dark horse in this year's Alchemist Grand Meeting. Since that is the case, let me first congratulate you. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yan gently raised his eyes and gave a non-committal smile. He did not say anything. I wonder why Brother Yen Xiao is here at this moment. Old Qin, I can accompany you for a while. I also know some of the people here and I will help you get to know them. Hee hee. The cultivation of the old fellows here is only as. However, with their alchemy skills, they put on airs all day long. It makes people feel uncomfortable just by looking at them. Brother Yen Xiao, you should also pay attention when the time comes. Xiao Yan smiled. He knew this kind of thing even without Qin Zhong's reminder. He was naturally aware of the eccentricities of alchemists. As for Qin Zhong, it was likely that no one would be able to get along with him. With his fiery temper, it was likely that no one would be able to get along with him. Brother Qin Zhong, let's go. I have not taken the alchemist badge test for a long time. Today, I will also go and take a look. It will be more convenient in the future if I take the badge first. Qin Zhong once again smiled when he heard this. His figure moved and he led the way in front of Xiao Yan. With Qin Zhong's familiarity with the Alchemist Association, Xiao Yan naturally saved a lot of time. After a short while, the two of them arrived at a large hall. When they arrived at this place, the originally somewhat spacious surroundings were completely surrounded by a surging crowd. The purpose of these people was the same as Xiao Yan. They had come to test their spiritual strength in order to obtain the qualification of a high-rank alchemist. There are quite a number of people here. It is a pity that they are all little fellows and cannot be mentioned in public. I wonder what rank alchemist Brother Yen Xiao wants to take the test. Perhaps I can be of some help. Xiao Yan smiled when he heard this. No matter where one went, it was useful to have strength. There would always be people who would think of ways to give you special treatment. After pondering for a while in his heart, Xiao Yan could not help but open his mouth and ask. Brother Qin Zhong, do you know what the highest rank of alchemist here is? Although Xiao Yan's voice was not loud, the people present were not weak. The weakest among them was a quasi-8th rank alchemist. Xiao Yan's words naturally fell into the ears of everyone present. Even the elder in charge of the test could not help but turn his gaze toward Xiao Yan at this moment. Qin Zhong's expression was startled when he heard these words. He had never expected Xiao Yan to say such words in front of everyone. He was just about to open his mouth when the elder in charge of the test took a step forward and opened his mouth to speak with a smile. The highest qualification here is to reach the 9th rank high-rank alchemist. I wonder if you have the confidence to take it in one go? Xiao Yan frowned slightly when he heard this. He sighed and shook his head. He muttered to himself in a low voice. 9th rank high rank? It is still too low. Although this voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible, under the terrifying hearing of Qin Zhong, a half-emperor expert, and the elder in charge of the test, it was still heard by them. 9th rank high-rank alchemist was too low. Could it be that this Xiao Yan wanted to take the test for a higher rank? Chapter 115. Grade 9 Advanced Grade Alchemist was too low. The two of them were completely stunned on the spot by Xiao Yan's words. Tier 9 High Grade Alchemist. He actually felt that such a powerful alchemist's tier was low. They did not know if he really possessed such strength or if he thought too highly of himself. Xiao Yan's words caused the two of them to be completely stunned. Even an ordinary half-emperor expert would have to speak politely to a grade 9 alchemist. After all, a grade 9 alchemist could be considered as a person who could truly stand out in the entire continent. However, Xiao Yan actually did not even place a grade 9 advanced grade alchemist in his eyes. Did he really think that he was an exceptional genius who could comprehend everything in a short period of time? To be able to reach the level of a half-emperor, one could only say that his cultivation talent was heaven-defying. However, alchemy was not something that could be achieved just by cultivating all day long. The strength of one's spiritual strength was not only dependent on one's strength, it also required one's comprehension. Even an ordinary half-emperor's spiritual strength might not be able to reach the level of an emperor. The invigilating elder did not believe that Xiao Yan's spiritual strength could reach the level of an emperor at such a young age, even though he had the body of a half-emperor. Wouldn't that be too heaven-defying? Friend, confidence is a good thing. However, blind confidence will turn into arrogance. Why don't you try to become a grade 9 advanced grade alchemist first? You will not be able to withstand the higher levels. The invigilating elder was also a grade 9 advanced grade alchemist. His mood was clearly a little bad after hearing Xiao Yan's words. However, He still chuckled as he spoke to Xiao Yan. Qin Zhong by the side involuntarily curled the corner of his mouth when he heard these words. This old man's words were quite calm, but his actions clearly indicated that he wanted Xiao Yan to go up and suffer. Once Xiao Yan did not have the qualification to become a Tier 9 high-grade alchemist, he would mock him. This was something that the hot-tempered Qin Zhong could not endure. He immediately let out a cold snort and stepped forward. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows when he heard these words. The people in the Alchemist Association were just as Qin Zhong had said. They were all prideful individuals. As long as there was something wrong in their hearts, they would return the favor. Xiao Yan could not be bothered to waste time with him. He did not care about a grade 9 advanced grade alchemist. 10 years ago, he was already able to refine a grade 9 mysterious pill. Now that he was an emperor, a grade 9 alchemist was nothing to him. However, today, a mere grade 9 advanced grade alchemist actually spoke such disdainful words in front of him. Xiao Yan was naturally somewhat dissatisfied in his heart. Xiao Yan extended his hand and stopped Qin Zhong, who was about to step forward. His expression was calm as he slowly walked toward the examination elder. Those alchemists in front of Xiao Yan, who were still waiting for the test, opened up a path wherever he passed. The voice of the examining elder earlier was quite loud. He had purposely allowed them to hear it. At this moment, everyone wanted to see Xiao Yan's face when he made a fool of himself. They wanted to see if he could still be as calm as he was now. They didn't believe that a fledgling brat, even if he had some talent in cultivation, would be unconvinced in their hearts when it came to medicine concocting skills. How could the medicine concocting skills of the man in front of them be compared to them? Genuine alchemists who wholeheartedly sought the path of medicine concocting. Everyone sneered as they watched Xiao Yan walk towards the Alchemist Association. They were waiting for Xiao Yan to be defeated. At that time, there would be another scene of laughter. Walking in front of the Alchemist Association, Xiao Yan still looked indifferent. He looked at the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association and slowly said, "According to your previous words, there should be other assessment areas here. Since you don't want me to go there easily, then tell me, what's the test? I'll pass it directly so that I can take the higher level test." Hua! Xiao Yan's words did not leave any face for the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association. He directly provoked the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association, causing the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association to have an ugly expression. He coldly snorted and pointed at a black stone tablet behind him. "This is the Spirit Testing Tablet. As long as you place your palm on it and pour your spiritual strength into it, this tablet will be able to test your spiritual strength in alchemist grade. The highest level of the Spirit Testing Tablet can reach is the perfect heavenly realm and a grade 9 high-grade alchemist." As his words fell, the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association looked at Xiao Yan with an indifferent expression. Then he swept his gaze across the crowd and stepped to the side, opening a path for Xiao Yan. He was also waiting for Xiao Yan to fail the test and be defeated. Casually glancing at the Alchemist Association's Advanced Grade Alchemist Association, Xiao Yan's body did not move, but an extremely terrifying spiritual strength condensed between his eyebrows and swept towards the Spirit Testing Tablet. "Brother Yan Xiao, do you really want to do this? Don't be impulsive and fall for this ignorant man's trick." Suddenly, Xiao Yan heard Qin Zhong's rough voice, which was filled with concern, again, causing Xiao Yan's movements to pause. But immediately, Xiao Yan chuckled. Turning around, Xiao Yan revealed a reassuring smile to Qin Zhong. The two of them nodded in understanding, and Qin Zhong did not say anything else. Since Xiao Yan had indicated for him to be at ease, then Xiao Yan should have his own confidence. Although he had not known Xiao Yan for long, Qin Zhong dared to conclude that as long as Xiao Yan dared to do this, he definitely had his own confidence. After all, was Li Gan not the same as that day? Originally, he had wanted to use his strength to suppress Xiao Yan and intimidate him. However, in the end, he was forcefully suppressed by Xiao Yan, causing him to not only be mocked by tens of thousands of people but also have to apologize. Perhaps today, Xiao Yan would be able to prove himself once again. Just as he turned around, a terrifying spiritual strength surged out from between Xiao Yan's eyebrows like a tidal wave, fiercely bombarding the Spirit Testing Tablet. When the spiritual strength swept through the hall, everyone was suppressed by the terrifying spiritual strength and knelt on the ground. Even the exam elder, who was looking at Xiao Yan with a sneer on his face, took a few steps back with difficulty. In the end, He relied on his strength as a one-star half-emperor to forcefully support himself and not fall down. Outside the hole, there were quite a few people who had discovered the abnormality the instant the spiritual strength swept out. Their faces instantly changed, and their eyes were filled with shock. Could it be that some almighty of the Alchemist Guild was refining an extremely powerful medicinal pill? Otherwise, how could there be such a frightening momentum? Even some of the true leaders of the Alchemist Guild were looking over with shock in their eyes. Then their figures moved, and they quickly rushed towards the hole. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. The spirit testing tablet, which had been hit by Xiao Yan's spiritual strength, only lasted for a moment before it exploded, turning into a pile of rubble on the ground. At this moment, Qin Zhong, who was standing behind Xiao Yan, was also looking at Xiao Yan in front of him in shock. He never imagined that Xiao Yan's spiritual strength would actually be so powerful. A grade 9 high-rank alchemist is really a trashy existence to you. After a long while, Qin Zhong could only bitterly smile, shake his head, and sigh. Then, he looked pitifully at the exam elder, who was still bitterly holding on, and no longer spoke. Those who are interested, please join the group. Please add. Please recommend. Please comment. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 116. At this moment, the invigilating elder had a bitter expression on his face. He knew in his heart that today, he had finally met someone he should not have. From today onwards, his good days would come to an end. After the spirit testing tablet was destroyed, Xiao Yan casually withdrew his spiritual strength. Only then did the kneeling Tier 8 alchemists crawl up with difficulty. Each of them looked at Xiao Yan's back with horrified eyes. Even so, they still felt a trance in their eyes and were unable to clearly see Xiao Yan's back. In the world of the strong, just the remnant power was enough to make them feel powerless. This kind of power was not something that ordinary Tier 8 alchemists like them could resist. Xiao Yan's aura dissipated and the exam elder's body also felt lighter. His bent waist also slowly straightened up. However, looking at his face, there was not the slightest trace of relief. There was no other reason other than the young man in black robes standing in front of him. Xiao Yan's action must have alarmed everyone in the Alchemist Guild. As the exam elder, he had neglected such a person. After this matter, the higher-ups would definitely hold him responsible. In order to appease the dissatisfaction in this person's heart, he would not be able to stay in this savage ancient city in the future. With a single mistake, he had given up his glory and wealth. It was time to change his high and mighty character. Sighing in his heart, the exam elder helplessly shook his head. He let out a long sigh and stood on the spot with a dispirited face. On the other hand, Qin Zhong's face was filled with mockery as he looked at the people around him. These fellows usually had their noses in the air and looked down on others. Today, they finally had a taste of being suppressed. Haha, I did not know that an esteemed guest would be visiting and have neglected you. This old man apologizes to you on behalf of the Alchemist Guild. Suddenly, a bold and clear laughter broke through the air and reverberated within the hall, causing everyone to feel a roaring sound reverberate in their ears. Qin Zhong's expression involuntarily turned solemn when he heard this voice. Given his familiarity with the savage ancient city, he naturally knew who the owner of this voice was. Moreover, based on his words that represented the entire Alchemist Association, this person's identity had already surfaced. This person was definitely the chairman of the Alchemist Association. When Xiao Yan heard this, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. The person in charge of the venue was finally here. As such, Xiao Yan did not have to look for him again. This is my first time here. I don't want to disturb Master, so I'll just look around. As Xiao Yan's voice faded, the crowd in front of him parted, and 3 elderly figures appeared before everyone's eyes. Following the appearance of the 3 figures, waves of astonishment were immediately emitted from the crowd, causing the hall, which had originally quietened down because of Xiao Yan, to once again become noisy. Isn't that Chairman Gu Li? Also, aren't those 2 beside him the deputy chairman, Qi Lin, and the chief alchemist of the Alchemist Association, Elder Wei Yi? That's right, that's right. The 3 of them are usually elusive and rarely appear. It is unexpected that all of them have come today because of this Yan Xiao. Just what ability does this Yan Xiao have to actually attract all 3 of them here? If news of this were to spread, it is likely that it would cause another earth-shaking storm. The 3 old men, who were the main characters, completely ignored the noisy discussions of the crowd. At this moment, their gazes had all landed on Xiao Yan, who was right at the front of the crowd. Haha, from the looks of it, this friend wants to obtain an alchemist badge, right? The three of them stopped 10 feet in front of Xiao Yan. The hemp-clothed old man, who was the leader, stroked his beard with one hand as he looked at Xiao Yan with a smile on his face and spoke with a loud laugh. Although the old man was dressed casually, Xiao Yan did not dare to relax even a little when facing him. From Xiao Yan's perception, the strength of this old man did not lose to the cloud-splitting wolf. The density of his aura was likely even greater. That's right. However, from the looks of it, your spirit testing tablet seems to have been broken by me. Haha, with this friend's strength, this kind of spirit testing tablet is naturally unable to withstand a casual attack from you. This time, the one who spoke was an old man wearing a brocade robe standing to the left of the leading old man. His red hair was like rising flames. His aura was actually equally matched with the leading old man. Clearly, he was also an 8-star half-martial emperor expert. At this moment, Xiao Yan finally understood the true strength of the Alchemist Guild. No wonder ordinary half-martial emperors had to be well-behaved in this place. Without even mentioning the powerful alchemists in the Alchemist Guild, just the overall strength of the Alchemist Guild was already not inferior to some superfactions. When Xiao Yan's gaze turned towards the third old man, his brows involuntarily furrowed slightly. The third old man was wearing the robe of a high-tier alchemist. However, what caused Xiao Yan to be somewhat astonished was that this old man's strength was only that of a 2-star half-martial emperor. Yet, he was actually able to travel together with these two. This was truly strange. However, in the next instant, Xiao Yan's gaze landed on the alchemist badge on the old man's chest. The badge's outer appearance was like a medicinal cauldron. Above the medicinal cauldron, there were strands of medicinal fragrance lingering on it. In the middle of the medicinal cauldron, there were 9 different colored ripples engraved on it like rainbows. Those 9 ripples represented a rank 9 alchemist. However, on those ripples, there were 2 genuine medicinal pellets. If one were to carefully smell them, one would even discover that those 2 genuine medicinal pellets were actually emitting waves of medicinal fragrance that made one's heart feel comfortable. Brother Yan Xiao, you should pay more attention to the third old man. That old man's name is Wei Yi. Although his strength is not much, his alchemy skills are extremely exquisite. He is the head alchemist of the Alchemist Guild. His rank has even reached that of a rank 2 alchemist. Because of this, he is normally extremely arrogant. You have to be careful. Qin Zhong's voice was once again transmitted to Xiao Yan just as Xiao Yan was observing the old man wearing alchemist robes. He introduced the old man to Xiao Yan through voice transmission. Xiao Yan involuntarily raised his eyebrows when he heard the somewhat foreign words in Qin Zhong's words. Rank 2 Alchemist. Was this the alchemist rank on the Origin Martial Continent? There was no difference between it and the Doqi continent. While Xiao Yan was paying attention to the alchemist called Wei Yi, the other party was also paying attention to him. The spiritual pressure that Xiao Yan had emitted just now was not inferior to his. Wei Yi's heart was incomparably clear that the reason he could become the head alchemist of the Alchemist Guild was because of his frightening spiritual strength. The appearance of Xiao Yan would definitely become a great calamity in his heart. It was likely that even his position as the chief alchemist would be given to him by these 2 old fellows in front of him with cupped hands. The moment he thought of this, Wei Yi's impression of Xiao Yan instantly fell to the bottom of the valley. Chapter 117. From what the 2 of you said just now, are there other places to take the test in the Alchemist Guild? Xiao Yan didn't care about Wei Yi's slightly sinister gaze. Xiao Yan had seen this kind of gaze many times before. It was only because the spiritual strength that Xiao Yan had displayed just now was too strong that jealousy arose in his heart. Or perhaps it was because he was afraid that Xiao Yan's talent would pose a threat to his position as the chief alchemist of the Alchemist Association, causing him to have some resentment toward Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's heart was not here. Naturally, he was too lazy to bother. He ignored the dark and dense expression on Wei Yi's face as he turned his gaze toward the old man leading the group and the red-haired old man on his left, opened his mouth and spoke with a smile. The 2 of them smiled again when they heard this. The old man in the lead glanced at Wei Yi on his right, then looked at Xiao Yan and laughed loudly. Of course. After all, the ancient Wildland City is the largest city in the southwest region. Although there are few Tier 9 alchemists, we have other preparations for the high-rank spirit testing tablet. Otherwise, if a genius like you were to arrive one day, We wouldn't want to miss it. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. He exchanged glances with Qin Zhong, then once again smiled at the old man in the lead. Then I wonder if I would be fortunate enough to go and check it out? Ha ha ha, of course. With your tyrannical spiritual strength, you would naturally be able to try the high-rank spirit testing tablet. However, just as the old man in the lead finished speaking, he immediately followed up with another sentence. This also caused Xiao Yan's gaze to pause as he looked at the old man in the lead with a slightly puzzled expression. However, I would like to ask you to wait for me to first deal with the matter of this person under my command. After all, there is actually such an unjust person existing in my alchemist association. As the president, I really feel guilty in my heart. As his voice fell, the president ignored Xiao Yan. His face suddenly turned cold as he looked indifferently at the exam elder. At this moment, the invigilating elder's strength seemed to be nothing. In front of the president, he could not muster up any courage. What's wrong? Weren't you very unyielding when facing this friend earlier? Why do you look like a piece of trash now? The president's eyes were cold, and the aura around his body surged like a hidden dragon. This caused the exam elder's face to instantly turn pale without the slightest trace of blood. His entire body trembled, and cold sweat instantly drenched his clothes. Sir, President, this subordinate really didn't know that this sire would actually be such a person. This subordinate will definitely... Too late. My alchemist guild doesn't need someone like you. From today onwards, leave my alchemist guild. The moment the president finished speaking, the invigilating elder's face turned ashen. His eyes were dull and his heart was filled with unwillingness. After being stunned for a while, he unwillingly shouted at the president, "Senior brother, I'm not going to give up. President, I've done a lot for the guild over the years. How can you let me leave just like that? How can you convince everyone?" Shut up. The little things you've done for my alchemist guild are nothing compared to the resources you've taken from the guild. President, haha, I don't think that this is necessary. After all, Elder Yun has been in my alchemist guild for quite a long time. At the very least, he has worked hard even if he didn't contribute anything. Moreover, he has helped my alchemist guild to nurture many talents over the years. Why don't we punish him and send him to a branch guild? The president's angry rebuke had just sounded when Wei Yi, who was behind him, took a step forward and stood beside the president. Wei Yi turned to the president and smiled faintly as he spoke. When the president heard Wei Yi's words, he knew in his heart that Elder Yun was obviously Wei Yi's subordinate. That was why he was so arrogant and despotic. Instantly, he felt a little displeased in his heart. With Wei Yi's alchemist skills, he usually didn't hold back in front of them. The matter with Elder Yun today could be said to have really provoked him. Immediately, he wanted to turn his head and argue with Wei Yi. However, in the next moment, Xiao Yan's voice once again sounded out from nowhere. It also caused the president's actions to suddenly pause. The words that were about to come out of his mouth were also forcefully swallowed back. President, I also think that since Elder Yun didn't commit any major crimes, let's just forget about it. It's just a small matter. There's no need to make such a big fuss. Xiao Yan laughed softly and said with a casual expression. Xiao Yan's words also caused the corners of Wei Yi's mouth to curl as he let out a soft laugh. From the way he saw it, this action of Xiao Yan's was clearly an expression of fear toward him. In order to avoid any trouble, Xiao Yan was merely admitting defeat. Even though this was the case, it still caused Wei Yi to feel a wave of comfort in his heart. It seemed that this kid wasn't a young and hot-blooded person with guts. He was just a coward. Even if he had the ability, it was just a mountain of treasures. This alchemist association was still his territory and no one could change it. However, Xiao Yan didn't think so in his heart. On one hand, he did this to stop when he was ahead. After all, the president's main purpose was to appease the dissatisfaction in Xiao Yan's heart. On the other hand, he did indeed want to cause less trouble. He couldn't be bothered to fight with Wei Yi openly and covertly. At most, it would be a matter of a single sentence. He would let Wei Yi think whatever he wanted. The president and Qi Lin also understood one after another. They looked at each other and smiled. However, they didn't say anything else. On the other hand, Qin Zhong's gaze was even more vigilant when he looked at Wei Yi. After all, he was a big-hearted person and all these things were reflected in his eyes. Haha, all right. Since you have spoken, this old man won't say anything else. Men. The president smiled at Xiao Yan. Soon after, his expression turned serious and he let out a stern cry. The entire Alchemist Association shook slightly. At the same time, a couple of black-clothed people wearing alchemist robes also appeared in the hall and dragged Elder Yun and Elder Yun out. Humph! A bunch of brats. Scram for this old man. Elder Yun's figure had just disappeared from everyone's sight when the president once again let out a stern cry. The alchemists in the hall swiftly retreated like the tide. In a short moment, only Xiao Yan's group of 5 remained in the hall. Hee, this is my friend. Please accompany me. Haha. All right. Since that's the case, this old man will bring you to test the high-rank spirit testing tablet. To be honest, this thing hasn't been used for many years. Haha. Chapter 118. Haha, this old man is slow-witted. Along the way, I have forgotten to ask for your name. Please don't take offense. Ha! The chairman chuckled as the few of them walked forward. His face revealed an embarrassed expression as he turned his head and asked Xiao Yan with a smile. Xiao Yan also returned the greeting and smiled. He cupped his hands together towards the chairman and said, I am Yan Xiao. When Xiao Yan's words left his mouth, the chairman and the other 2 were slightly startled. Immediately, a surprised expression surged onto their faces. The gazes with which they looked at Xiao Yan were filled with an increasingly disbelieving expression. You are that Yan Xiao who fought with the ancestor of the Li clan, Li Gong, half a month ago? It was a long while later before the chairman opened his mouth and continued to ask Xiao Yan with a shocked tone. Xiao Yan also smiled and nodded his head in acknowledgement. Although they were already mentally prepared, when they saw Xiao Yan nod his head in acknowledgement at this moment, the 3 of them could not help but emit a wave of cold air. No matter how they thought about it, they would never have imagined that the genius alchemist that they had met today would actually be Yan Xiao, whose name had recently shaken the entire ancient wild city. Tiske, this is really unexpected. Little friend Yan Xiao possessed such talent at such a young age. Not only did he possess great strength, but even his achievements in alchemy were also so shocking. Little friend Yan Xiao is really a talented person, a genius blessed by the heavens. At this moment, even the deputy chairman, Qi Lin, who was following beside the chairman, could not help but let out waves of exclamations from his mouth. The gaze with which he looked at Xiao Yan was as though he was looking at a monster. Xiao Yan was actually able to walk so far on the path of cultivation and alchemy at such a young age. This point involuntarily caused these old fellows, who had spent their entire lives in order to reach this step, to feel ashamed in their hearts. When they thought of this, Chairman Gu Li and Vice Chairman Qi Lin could not help but look at each other. However, they could see a bitter smile in each other's eyes. Xiao Yan's excellence really made these 2 old fellows feel a little uncomfortable in their hearts. The 2 of them felt the same way. How could Wei Yi let it go? The more outstanding Xiao Yan was, the more unjust he felt. He had spent his entire life to get to where he was today. How could this brat in front of him obtain it so easily? This also caused the resentment in Wei Yi's heart to become even denser when he looked at Xiao Yan's eyes. However, if he knew that Xiao Yan's current strength and vast alchemy foundation had been painstakingly obtained, he probably wouldn't have the confidence to compete with Xiao Yan anymore. There was no shortcut on the path of training. The reason why Xiao Yan was able to obtain his current achievement was merely because he had relied on the tough perseverance that he had accumulated during his training. The difficulties and hardships along the way, the life and death battles, were all not training. If Xiao Yan hadn't swallowed the heavenly flame, how could he have his current strength? However, how could swallowing a heavenly flame be so easy? One didn't know how many life and death situations were involved. If it wasn't for Xiao Yan's extraordinary perseverance, it was likely that he would have fallen on the path of cultivation long ago. Xiao Yan's achievements were all obtained by risking his life. They were all obtained by Xiao Yan by enduring pain and torture that an ordinary person would not be able to endure. How could Wei Yi compare with him on this point? A moment later, the group of 5 had already arrived in front of a thick black mysterious door. This was also the first goal of Xiao Yan's trip. Cuckoo, this high-grade examination room has indeed not been used for many years. Now that I have come here again, I can't help but recall some of the outstanding geniuses of the past. Cuckoo. Gu Li sighed emotionally as he laughed. Immediately, the aura all over his body suddenly shook. He clenched his right hand and pure do chi surged out of his palm like spring water. Immediately, his palm smashed onto the black mysterious door. Following a wave of water-like energy ripples that slowly spread apart, a layer of faint cream-white glow appeared on the surface of the black mysterious door. The mysterious door also slowly became illusionary in this space the moment this layer of cream-white glow appeared. Finally, it completely disappeared. Cuckoo, I have caused Xiaoyan to laugh. This high-grade spirit testing tablet is extremely important to our alchemist association. It is also because it is too expensive to make. Therefore, we have no choice but to carefully protect it. Cuckoo. The black mysterious door had also completely disappeared after his voice sounded. All that remained was an empty doorway. Guli waved his large sleeve and made an inviting gesture. Xiaoyan also smiled. He exchanged glances with Qin Zhonghu before taking the lead and entering. This large hall was not much different from the examination hall from earlier. However, it had not been used for a long time, causing a layer of dust to accumulate everywhere. Guli, who had followed closely behind, could not help but reveal a bitter smile when he saw this. He waved his large sleeve and an invisible force suddenly shot out, sweeping away all the dust on the ground. Xiaoyan ignored this. His gaze had landed on the dark black stone tablet in the middle of the hall ever since he had entered. High-grade spirit testing tablet. Without any explanation, Xiaoyan had already walked in front of the spirit testing tablet before the people behind him had all stepped into the hall. Xiaoyan was already incomparably clear on how to use the spirit testing tablet. However, when facing this spirit testing tablet, Xiaoyan did not dare to directly use his spiritual strength to bombard it. He was able to sense that there was an extremely mysterious array within this spirit testing tablet. However, with his current strength, he was unable to investigate it. It was likely that even if Xiaoyan poured all of his spiritual strength into the spirit testing tablet, it would not be damaged in the slightest. His right hand extended out from his sleeve. In his mind, the endless spiritual strength that was like an ocean transformed into a surging river at this moment and completely gathered on Xiaoyan's right palm. At the same time, Xiaoyan's right palm slowly came together with the spirit testing tablet. In an instant, Xiaoyan's slightly closed eyes suddenly opened wide. The spirit testing tablet was like a water pump, sucking out all of Xiaoyan's spiritual strength that was like a tidal wave out of his body in an instant. At this moment, Xiaoyan could not help but feel a wave of dizziness in his mind. His entire body felt as if it was about to collapse in an instant, causing Xiaoyan to involuntarily take half a step back. When Xiaoyan withdrew, the surging spiritual strength once again returned to Xiaoyan's body. Xiaoyan instantly regained his consciousness and stabilized his retreating body. His face was still filled with lingering fear as he looked at the spirit testing tablet from before. In the next instant, 4 large golden words slowly appeared in front of Xiaoyan's eyes. Second level Emperor Realm. Looking for recommendations. Looking for comments. Looking for collections. Interested parties, please enter the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 119. Second level Emperor Realm. The 4 shining golden words were like a body immobilizing talisman, causing the 5 people in the hall to be rooted to the ground. They did not move at all. The space in the hall seemed to have been completely frozen at this moment. In an instant, it suddenly became silent. Humph. After a long while, Wei Yi, who was behind President Gu Li, let out an indescribable cold snort from his nose. This also caused the deathly silent atmosphere to suddenly shatter. Xiaoyan and the others also instantly regained their senses. Xiaoyan's gaze was still looking at the 4 large words on the spirit testing tablet, a joyous light flickering in the depths of his eyes. Second level Emperor Realm. Since it was the second level, it was likely that the current Xiaoyan's alchemist level was not much lower than Wei Yi's. After all, he, Wei Yi, was only a second-level alchemist. Say, Brother Yan Zhao's strength is really impressive. This old man originally thought that Brother Yan Zhao should be a first-level alchemist at his current age. Who would have thought that this old man underestimated Brother Yan Zhao's true strength? Turning around, Guli also looked at Xiaoyan with a face of amazement. Admiration was revealed in his deep eyes. Even Qi Lin, who was standing to the side, looked at Xiaoyan with a face full of smiles, constantly nodding his head and praising. Xiaoyan also smiled, cupped his hands and smiled. I was just lucky. I did not expect that I would actually be a second-level alchemist. However, I have a question that I would like to ask President Gu Li. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Gu Li and Qi Lin exchanged glances. The two of them clearly heard the trace of strangeness in Xiao Yan's words, but they still did not understand. Frowning slightly, Gu Li glanced at Wei Yi, who was standing to the side, and smiled. Brother Yan Xiao, if you have any questions, just ask. If this old man can answer, I will definitely tell you everything I know. Seeing this, Xiao Yan smiled again. He also knew that Gu Li and Qi Lin were clearly avoiding Wei Yi. With regards to his question, the two of them were also somewhat worried that it was a big matter and did not want Wei Yi to know. President Gu Li, when I left Mount Li, I didn't know anything about alchemists above the 9th grade. My master has already left to travel the world. Therefore, I would like to talk about the second level of the Emperor realm. Haha. Once Xiao Yan's words were transmitted, it caused Gu Li, whose old eyes occasionally glanced at Wei Yi, to involuntarily reveal a strange expression on his face. The big question that the old me was waiting for you to ask was this? The corners of Qi Lin's mouth couldn't help but curl into a smile. He was already laughing in his heart. Gu Li's President Gu Li's face. If this matter, Gu Li's face was, Gu Li, the president, Gu Li. Wei Yi also revealed a disdainful sneer. The gaze he used to look at Xiao Yan was as if he was looking at a fool. I thought you had some background and knew a lot. Humph. So you are just a country bumpkin. You don't even have the slightest idea of a high-rank alchemist. Look at your master. He is really stupid. He actually accepted a disciple like you, and you are even an alchemist. What a disgrace. Of course, these words were only what Wei Yi said in his heart. If he really said it out loud, it was likely that even if the two 8-star half-emperors, Gu Li, were here, he would still forcefully kill them. After being stunned for a while, Gu Li's mouth twitched slightly. Soon after, his expression turned serious as he coldly swept a glance at Qi Lin. Seeing this, Qi Lin hurriedly recovered his expression and put on a serious face. Haha, little friend Yan Xiao is asking about this? Xiao Yan could also see it in his heart. However, he still pretended not to know anything and smiled as he nodded his head. Gu Li also involuntarily coughed twice as if he was clearing his throat. Soon after, his expression became normal as he opened his mouth and said, The question that Brother Yan Xiao has raised is indeed normal. After all, high-tier alchemists are extremely rare even on this continent. Moreover, the strict classification of alchemists also causes people to be extremely secretive about them. The alchemist classification is divided into the man and god realms. The man realm is from a Tier 1 alchemist to a Tier 9 alchemist. It also includes the 4 great spiritual realms, the mortal realm, the soul realm, the heavenly realm and the emperor realm. I believe that Brother Yan Xiao already has an extremely good understanding of these 4 great realms. Xiao Yan smiled and nodded his head. He did not comment. Gu Li also smiled and nodded his head. After which, he continued to explain to Xiao Yan. Above the man realm is the god realm. Within the soul of the god realm, it is further divided into the rank 1 alchemist to the rank 9 alchemist. The spiritual realms within it are further divided into the unity realm, the origin transformation realm, the god transformation realm and the nether realm. The unity realm uses the soul to turn into a point and all realms return to one. One is able to condense all the spiritual strength in one's body into a point and condense it into a soul bead. It is placed within the sea of consciousness and can be used in all forms. The origin transformation realm, the unity transformation realm, communicates with the world and uses the spiritual strength to change the might of the world. The world can be used and one can form the divine soul realm. It has a miraculous effect when facing an enemy. The divine transformation realm, the origin is the god. The spiritual strength changes into all living things and can withstand all calamities. At this time, the spiritual strength has already turned into a substance and can even truly have an effect when facing an enemy. If one uses an E-class Do technique, the power will shake the heavens. The nether realm, the nether of the world. There is a way in the nether world. It controls the spirits of the world and is invincible in this space. It is the true peak of training spiritual strength. It merges with the world and transforms into a divine body. It touches the way of the world and is unparalleled. Within the God realm, there is also the D-realm spirit. After all, the D-realm spirit is a realm in between the two realms. It can be said that there is both. Hence, there is still one more. Rank 9 of the 5 realms. The 5 spiritual realms are divided into 9 ranks. The maximum limit of the D realm spirit is that of a rank 2 alchemist. This is also the harsh part of the God realm spirit. The Unity realm is that of a rank 3, rank 4 alchemist and so on. The Nether realm is known as rank 9. The strength of the Nether realm is unparalleled. However, there is also no way to know what a rank 9 medicinal pill is. At that time, the strength of the world can also be transformed into a pill. Everyone knows about the might of the heavens. However, no one dares to explore the peak of the heavens. This point is the taboo of the continent. This old man will not speak any further. I believe that Brother Yen Xiao also knows a thing or two about this. The things that this old man has mentioned are the true high-ranking alchemists of the continent. Brother Yen Xiao, do you know about them? Although it was not a secret, Gu Li was still sweating profusely as he spoke. Even if he knew about these things, it was really tiring to talk about them. However, when Gu Li's last sentence sounded, Xiao Yan was already stunned on the spot. No one dared to explore the peak of the heavens. It was a taboo of the continent and everyone knew about it. This made Xiao Yan extremely curious in his heart. In Gu Li's eyes, all of this was seen by him. Xiao Yan was still digesting the many things that he had said. He also laughed softly and did not disturb him any further. Seeking collection. Seeking comments. Seeking recommendations. Those who are interested, please enter the group. Group number 476668761. Chapter 120. In front of the Alchemist Association, Gu Li, Qi Lin, and Xiao Yan walked out of the association together. The 4 of them also stopped in their tracks. Gu Li looked at Xiao Yan with a smile on his face and said, "Brother Yen Xiao, this old man still has some matters to attend to. Please forgive me for not seeing you off." Xiao Yan also smiled and opened his mouth to speak. President Gu Li must be joking. This trip of mine is already worth it. There is no need to trouble the president. Since the president still has matters to attend to, I will take my leave first. Seeing this, Gu Li did not say anything more. However, there was some light flickering in his eyes. He exchanged glances with Qi Lin, who was standing by the side. Both of them knew the other party's thoughts. However, in the end, Gu Li still shook his head slightly. Immediately, his gaze turned and once again looked at Xiao Yan. There was a smile on his face. With a flip of his hand, a jade tablet appeared in his hand. He smiled at Xiao Yan and said, "Today, I have seen that Brother Yen Zhao's strength is extraordinary. Moreover, you are deeply involved in alchemy. This jade tablet shall be a gift to Brother Yen Xiao. With this jade tablet, Brother Yen Xiao will be equivalent to a nominal elder of our Alchemist Association. You can freely enter any place of our Alchemist Association." Xiao Yan's eyes flashed when he saw this. Was this considered to be roping him in early? However, he quite liked this condition. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth curled into a smile. He was not reserved as he extended his hand and took it. In that case, many thanks to President Gu Li. Gu Li once again smiled when he saw this. Qi Lin also followed suit. With his shrewdness, he naturally saw through Gu Li's actions. However, he also praised Gu Li's quick-wittedness in his heart. When Qin Zhong, who was standing beside Xiao Yan, saw this, his eyes were filled with rich envy. A nominal elder of the Alchemist Association. This kind of treatment was something that even that old fellow Li Gon did not have. Although he was envious, that jade tablet ultimately belonged to Xiao Yan. Qin Zhong could only watch as Xiao Yan kept it in his pocket with a greedy expression on his face. After delivering the gifts, Gu Li really didn't have anything else to say. After a few words of laughter, the few of them also left. Qi Lin watched Xiao Yan slowly disappear from his sight. Only then did he let out a soft sigh. He turned his head to Gu Li and frowned slightly. "Say, if you really mentioned that to him, would he help?" When Gu Li heard this, she did not comment. She also looked up to the sky and sighed. "If he is not willing, what can we do? We should just mention it. Since he has taken the item, he should be willing to help. No matter what, he will not lose out. Moreover, he's a young man. At this age, it's precisely the time when his heart is hot-blooded. As long as he participates in the alchemist competition, he won't easily admit defeat." After saying these words, Qi Lin did not say anything else. His body turned and he took the lead to walk into the association. Not long after, Gu Li's figure also slowly disappeared from the spot. Ever since those Tier 8 alchemists were chased out of the association by Gu Li, everything that happened in the Alchemist Association swiftly spread throughout the entire ancient savage city as though it had grown wings. Xiao Yan also once again became the focus of attention in the ancient savage city. When Xiao Yan slowly walked on the main street, the surrounding crowd involuntarily turned their gazes towards Xiao Yan. Immediately, another wave of earth-shaking noises and discussions soared towards the sky. Quickly look, isn't that Yan Xiao? I heard that his strength has already stepped into the ranks of the elite half-martial emperors. Earlier, someone saw Xiao Yan and cried out in surprise. However, before those words could completely fade, another person's mocking laughter was once again transmitted over, causing a portion of the surrounding people to involuntarily turn their gazes over. Heh, that was news from half a month ago. Did you see the direction that he came from? That is the territory of the Alchemist Association. The place that Yan Xiao had just headed to is that place. A wave of doubtful voices was once again emitted after this person's words sounded. The crowd also began to stir once again. What? Isn't Yan Xiao a training maniac? Why would he go to the Alchemist Association? Don't tell me that he was injured in the big battle half a month ago and went to buy medicinal pills? He injured? He has an overwhelming advantage against that old fellow Li Gan. How could he be injured? Moreover, with such a powerful expert like old Luo guarding by his side, even if Li Gan had the guts of the heavens, he would not dare to have any thoughts about Yan Xiao. I heard that the reason why Yan Xiao went to the Alchemist Association this time around is to take the test for a high-tier alchemist. I really did not expect that not only does Yan Xiao have great training talent, but even his alchemy skills are also at the forefront. The chaotic and noisy voices also caused Xiao Yan to feel helpless in his heart. He could only increase the speed of his footsteps. His body flashed and he had already rushed past the crowd and reached the end of his sight. Qin Zhong, who was beside Xiao Yan, also curled the corners of his mouth impatiently. The noise of the crowd also caused his violent temper to be unable to endure it. If Xiao Yan was not by his side earlier, it was likely that he would have already been unable to control himself and take action. At this moment, when he saw Xiao Yan swiftly dodge, the aura of Qin Zhong's entire body suddenly shook. The frightening aura that belonged to a 3-star half-emperor also instantly attacked, causing the surrounding crowd to withdraw and avoid it. Xiao Yan, who had just returned to the inn, did not even have the time to catch his breath when a human figure appeared in front of his room. This also caused the expression on Xiao Yan's face to be slightly startled. However, it immediately turned into a smile on his face as he teased, "Elder Xian, why do you have the time to come to my place? Could it be that you were attracted by the news outside?" The person who came was Elder Xian of the Yunin Pavilion. When Elder Xian heard Xiao Yan's teasing words, a smile appeared on his old face. His shriveled hand stroked his long beard as he replied with a smile, "Haha, that is exactly what this old man meant." As his voice fell, the two of them laughed out loud in unison. Following which, Xiao Yan's expression turned serious as he smiled and asked Elder Xian, "Elder Xian, you must have come here for something. If there is something, you might as well say it directly." "Haha, Brother Yan Xiao really goes straight to the point." "Haha. Since this is the case, then I shall not beat around the bush and say any more nonsense. I have not come here today for any important matter. I only wish to invite Brother Yan Xiao over." Hearing this, Xiao Yan could not help but raise his eyebrows. He looked at Elder Xian, only to find that there was a hint of a smile in the depths of his eyes. Xiao Yan's face became even more doubtful when he heard this. Old Xian smiled when he saw this. His eyes looked at Xiao Yan with a meaningful expression as he continued speaking. "This invitation is not a big deal. It is just that my master wants to see you." Chapter 121. When Elder Xian said these words, Xiao Yan's expression instantly hardened. The owner behind the Yunin Pavilion actually wanted to meet him. This really caused Xiao Yan to feel inexplicably surprised in his heart. What kind of power was the Yunin Pavilion? Although the outside world did not know much about it, just from the aura of the Yunin Pavilion as well as the barrier that was personally set up by a Dodi, the energy that it contained was definitely not something that Xiao Yan could come into contact with. At the very least, Xiao Yan felt that it was impossible for the current him to interact with such a person. However, Elder Xian's words were true. The owner of the Yunyin Pavilion wanted to meet him, a mere 3-star half-emperor. Even if Xiao Yan had extraordinary alchemy skills, Xiao Yan did not feel that he had anything that could attract the other party's attention with just the strength of a rank 2 alchemist. Moreover, Elder Xian had just said that he had personally come here today to invite Xiao Yan. What kind of power was the Yunyin Pavilion? In this savage ancient city, who could be engraved with the word invite? Today, Xiao Yan could be said to be the first person in many years to receive such an invitation. Of course, the most important reason was that Xiao Yan did not know anything about the owner behind the Yunyin Pavilion. During this half a month, Xiao Yan had not taken a single step out of the inn. All of his energy was placed on the incarnation that he had formed with great difficulty. During the big battle with Li Gan half a month ago, other than the Void Lightning Pool invitation, Li Gan had also given him a crystal as an apology. When Xiao Yan had received it with one hand, his bright eyes had already thoroughly examined it. Immediately, a glint flashed across the depths of Xiao Yan's eyes. That crystal was actually a fire-type flame crystal. Xiao Yan was extremely calm as he quickly put it away, and did not say anything else to Li Gan. That night, in order to not cause another commotion in the savage ancient city, Xiao Yan left the savage ancient city and entered the endless deep mountains. The second incarnation was also successfully formed. However, the countless magic beasts that resided in the mountains were all killed by the terrifying spiritual ripple. It was also because of this that Xiao Yan knew nothing about the owner behind the scenes of the Yunyin Pavilion. This caused Xiao Yan to believe that the owner of the Yunyin Pavilion should be a white-haired old man. After all, if one did not possess sufficient strength to establish such a strong faction, it was likely that one would not be able to survive in this savage ancient city. It was possible that the barrier that was set up by a Do Di in the Yunyin Pavilion was created by that strong person. Thinking until this point, Xiao Yan felt increasingly shocked in his heart. The expression on his face was also constantly changing. A Do Di actually wanted to meet him. This was really unbelievable. When Elder Xian in front of him saw this, his expression did not change. However, in his heart, he had already burst out laughing. Elder Xian cleared his throat and calmed the emotions in his heart. He once again opened his mouth and laughed. Brother Yan Xiao, may I know if you are willing to go? My master really wants to meet you. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth involuntarily twitched a couple of times when he heard Elder Xian's words. He wished that he could turn around and flee. Who knew if this was a trap? It would not be fun if he did not return after going. However, Xiao Yan felt helpless in his heart. If the other party really wanted to do something to him, it seemed that he would not have the ability to retaliate given the strength of a Do Di. Although Gu Yu, an old fellow with an unfathomable strength, was in his body, Xiao Yan could tell that Gu Yu was a stubborn old man. It was impossible to get him to lend a hand. Xiao Yan bitterly laughed in his heart. It seemed that he had no choice but to accept the invitation of that person. After responding, Xiao Yan did not make any unnecessary preparations. He followed Elder Xian to the Yunyin Pavilion. Along the way, Xiao Yan asked Elder Xian about that person in a roundabout manner. Although Elder Xian blushed with shame at Xiao Yan's sharpness, he still vaguely answered Xiao Yan's questions. This caused Xiao Yan to be completely clueless. A moment later, the two of them arrived in front of the Yunyin Pavilion. Xiao Yan's throat rolled involuntarily when he sensed the aura of a genuine Do Di. His face was a little uneasy. After arriving at the entrance, Elder Xian was about to lead Xiao Yan to the 6th floor of the Yunyin Pavilion, where no outsider had ever been before. However, at this moment, a group of people surged out of the Yunyin Pavilion. These people were all guests of the Yunyin Pavilion. However, at this moment, they walked out with unhappy faces. Elder Xian ignored them. He merely stood by the side and waited for them to leave. The sudden appearance of Elder Xian had clearly startled this group of people. The strongest person among them was only a Do Shang. They really did not have any temper in front of a genuine Bandi like Elder Xian. When they saw Elder Xian, they respectfully bowed to Elder Xian despite being dozens of feet away. However, when they saw Xiao Yan beside Elder Xian, their expressions changed once again. Immediately, the group of people who had just bowed respectfully to Elder Xian turned around slightly and bowed respectfully to Xiao Yan once again. Juniors greet Elder Yan Xiao. Although there was no lack of elders who were older than Xiao Yan in this group of people, those who had reached the top were the teachers. Xiao Yan was worthy of being addressed as elder. Although he felt bitter in his heart, Xiao Yan still smiled and replied. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible force swept out and supported everyone who was bowing. Everyone's expressions became even more respectful after seeing this move of Xiao Yan's. Although there were quite a number of elite Doushangs present and they were also able to do the same thing as Xiao Yan, an elite Doushang's body contained an invisible pressure. This kind of strength was something that even they would have difficulty randomly controlling. Yet, Xiao Yan in front of them was able to do it so easily. How could they not feel shocked? After everyone bowed, they did not dare to remain any longer. One by one, they withdrew and left. Xiao Yan and Elder Xian were also allowed to enter the hall. The footsteps of the two once again paused after entering the hall. At this moment, there were people coming down one after another from upstairs. However, the strength of this group of people who had come down this time around had already stepped into the bandit class. They could be considered important people within this savage ancient city. At this moment, these people had the attitude of a prince. At a glance, it appeared as though they were trying to curry favor with one of them. After walking closer, Xiao Yan also discovered that their eyes were looking at an old man wearing alchemist robes. From this, one could tell that this old man was also an alchemist. The old man's face appeared skinny and he appeared just like a skeleton. However, there was a glint flashing within his shady old eyes. His thin lips appeared just like a blade. The corner of his mouth was lifted into a smile that caused one to feel incomparably dark and evil. The other party had also discovered the existence of the Elder Xian duo while Xiao Yan was looking at Elder Xian. That shady old man also revealed a smile on his face when he saw Xiao Yan. He ignored the other bandit experts around him as he took a couple of steps forward and arrived in front of Elder Xian. He cupped his hands together and laughed. Brother Xian Yi, haha, it has really been a long time since we last met. This old man had many things to attend to and was unable to come to this ancient wilderness city to get acquainted with my old friend. Brother Xian Yi, please don't blame me. This old man was clearly very familiar with Elder Xian. From his words, Xiao Yan also learned that Elder Xian's name was Elder Xian Yi. Haha, since Brother Mod is here, you are a guest of my Yunin Pavilion. How can this old man blame you? Although Mod had the intention of befriending Elder Xian, from the looks of it, the Elder Xian was not very fond of him. Xiao Yan also saw all of this but did not say a word. Haha, since I am a guest, I am unable to see through the actions of the Hidden Cloud Pavilion today. How can there be a reason to chase away a guest when they are open for business? May I know if Brother Xian Yi can give me an explanation? Mod laughed loudly and said in an inexplicable tone. Haha, Brother Mod, you have seen it. This old man has just returned from outside. How can I know about this? Moreover, what does our pavilion master want to do? Don't tell me that he has to ask me first. Ha! When Elder Xian said this, Mod and the other half-martial emperors beside him were all stunned. Then they looked at each other with surprise in their eyes. The pavilion master of the Yunin Pavilion had actually returned. Immediately, no one dared to say anything more. Mod also laughed awkwardly and changed the topic. He looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing beside Elder Xian. May I know who you are? Haha, I am Yan Xiao. Without waiting for Elder Xian to introduce him, Xiao Yan cupped his hands and smiled at Mod. When Xiao Yan said this, the other half-martial emperors, who were about to leave, once again turned their gazes over. Their bodies, which had only taken a few steps, paused again. Mod was obviously shocked by Xiao Yan's words. Then he laughed loudly. A glint flashed across his eyes as he said with a smile, Oh, it is Yan Xiao. Haha, when this old man arrived at the ancient wildland city, I heard all about your deeds. Now that I have met you today, you are even more impressive than the rumors. Ha! More than just more impressive than the rumors. In a while, you will hear news about him again. As soon as Mod laughed, Elder Xian opened his mouth and sneered. Mod clearly did not understand Elder Xian's words. Xiao Yan also smiled non-committally and did not say anything. Mod rolled his eyes when he saw this. He smiled and did not ask any more questions. Instead, he looked at Elder Xian again and said with a smile, From the looks of it, Brother Xian Yi is prepared to bring Brother Yan Xiao into the Yunin Pavilion. However, I wonder if the pavilion master will be unhappy. Xiao Yan frowned when he heard this. These words were not very pleasant to the ears. Elder Xian sneered. He turned around and walked toward the Yunin Pavilion. Xiao Yan also smiled and slowly followed, leaving behind a confused MOD. Humph. Please add me. Please comment. Please recommend me. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 122. Elder Xian, that MOD doesn't look like someone from the Alchemist Guild in the ancient wilderness city. Xiao Yan couldn't help but smile at Elder Xian as they ascended the stairs. Elder Xian naturally understood the meaning behind his words. Elder Xian smiled and said to Xiao Yan as they walked, "That guy, he thinks he has some ability." That guy, haha, he thinks he has some ability and wants to befriend this old man. He wants to use this opportunity to curry favor with my hidden cloud pavilion. Humph, with his little ability, he can only be considered decent here. Once he reaches the continent city, he will be nothing but a clown. Although Xiao Yan did not say anything when he heard up to this point, he was able to tell just what level these so-called high-tier alchemists were at. When he was sizing up MOD earlier, Xiao Yan had already noticed that MOD was a rank 2 alchemist. Based on Xiao Yan's spiritual perception, MOD's spiritual strength was probably stronger than Wei Yi's. It was because of this that Xiao Yan felt even more pressured by Elder Xian's words. Elder Xian was also an antique. Although Xiao Yan was behind him, he was able to detect this slight change. He immediately smiled and said, "Don't feel pressured." You don't need to feel pressured. The reason why this old man said that he is a clown is because he has spent most of his life to cultivate his skills. It will be difficult for him to advance even an inch in the future. You are different. You are still young and there will be plenty of opportunities for you to expand your skills in the future. The southwestern border will not be able to stop you. Xiao Yan understood what Elder Xian meant. He smiled non-committally and continued to listen to Elder Xian's explanation. That fellow is an alchemist from the Southern Descent City. The Southern Descent City is similar to the Savage Ancient City, and can be considered a large city at the border. However, it is still far inferior when compared to the Prefecture City. It is likely that he has come to the Savage Ancient City because of the Alchemist Grand Meeting. Given his character, it is likely that he will not miss out on some sarcastic remarks. Xiao Yan's face revealed a faint smile when he heard this. A fiery heat immediately surged within his heart. If it was the Alchemist Grand Meeting, he really wanted to experience MOD's ability. Today was the first time that he had met a high-tier alchemist. Haha, Brother Yen Xiao will also participate in the Alchemist Grand Meeting, right? Old Xian once again smiled as he sensed the waves of fiery heat being transmitted from Xiao Yan's body. Haha, if I am lucky enough to compete with a high-level alchemist, I won't let this opportunity go easily. Elder Xian chuckled when he heard this. He stopped in his tracks and turned to Xiao Yan with a smile. Oh, we're here. Since we're here, I won't go up. The pavilion master is waiting for you inside. Go on. Elder Xian didn't wait for Xiao Yan to make a move. Instead, his figure slowly turned illusory and disappeared in front of Xiao Yan. At this moment, the huge rock in Xiao Yan's heart that had yet to fall was hanging even higher. Finally, he was going to meet that person. Xiao Yan curled his lips and let out a long sigh of relief. He slowly lifted his feet and stepped onto the 6th floor of the Yunin Pavilion. Ta! He finally reached the 6th floor. However, this place looked completely different from the floors below. What entered his eyes were all kinds of furniture. At this moment, there was a human figure standing quietly in front of the window in front of Xiao Yan. Due to the reflection of the remaining sunlight, Xiao Yan was unable to clearly see the person's appearance. It was also because of this that Xiao Yan's heart became even more anxious. What's wrong? I just invited you for a meal. Why are you so nervous? You weren't this nervous when you faced an 8-star half-emperor the other day. Why are you so nervous when you see me today? Hee hee. Brother Yen Xiao. Before Xiao Yan could clearly see the appearance of that human figure, the other party's words had already struck out. When Xiao Yan heard that clear voice, the expression on his face was slightly startled. Why was this voice so familiar? An instant later, Xiao Yan's pupils abruptly shrunk. He was shocked as he looked at the figure in front of him who was slowly turning around. He wanted to say something, but due to the change in his emotions, he didn't say anything for a long time. On the other hand, the figure looked at Xiao Yan with a playful smile. It was as if he had expected this. Luo Jin. Haha, Brother Yen Xiao, You've been doing pretty well after a few months. It was a long while later before Xiao Yan finally spat out 2 words from his mouth. Luo Jin, on the other hand, looked at Xiao Yan with a face full of smiles. He laughed out loud as he spoke, completely forgetting his status in the eyes of others. "Heh, I really didn't expect that the person who invited me would actually be you. I thought that it would be a rotten old man. To be able to establish such a large faction, I have really underestimated you." After recognizing his identity, Xiao Yan's heart immediately relaxed. There was also a joking tone in his words, causing the relationship between the two to become more harmonious. "Haha, I don't have such great ability. I merely borrowed the strength of my family. These people are all my father's trusted aides. Otherwise, things wouldn't be so smooth." When Xiao Yan heard this, a glint flashed deep within his eyes. However, he didn't take it to heart. Instead, he opened his mouth and laughed. "I'm afraid that Brother Luo Jin didn't invite me here today just to treat me to a meal." Luo Jin smiled when he heard this. He waved his sleeves and invited Xiao Yan to take a seat. "Brother Yan Xiao, you're thinking too much. I, Marie, promised you that if you were to participate in the Alchemist Grand Meeting, I would definitely be there. Today, I merely wanted to meet you in advance." Xiao Yan was non-committal. Although Luo Jin didn't say it clearly, there was definitely something hidden within. However, Xiao Yan wasn't anxious in his heart. Since Luo Jin had already invited him, he would naturally find an opportunity to say it. Luo Jin also followed along and laughed for a while. Immediately, the two of them did not stand on ceremony and began to wreak havoc on the delicious food and wine on the table. After drinking and eating to their heart's content, the two of them appeared to be drunk. Of course, with their strength, they wouldn't get drunk no matter how strong the wine was. So, this little bit was nothing. At this moment, Xiao Yan also knew in his heart that the main topic had arrived. "Brother Yan Xiao, haha, to be honest, I really do have a matter that I wish to discuss with Brother Yan Xiao today." Xiao Yan's drowsy eyelids gently lifted. The wine cup in his hand was also gently placed down. He tilted his head and raised his eyebrows as he looked at Luo Jin with a face full of doubt. "The agility do technique that I saw you display in the sky that day. If I'm not wrong, it should be the sky extinction step that has disappeared for 100 years, right?" Once these words were spoken, a glint flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes. His delicate and handsome eyebrows involuntarily knit together. His entire person appeared to have woken up in an instant. "Yes, but why are you interested in this? With your status, you shouldn't be lacking in agility do techniques, right?" Luo Jin smiled. Both of his eyes flickered as he laughed. "I am not looking for the sky extinction step. Instead, it is related to the sky extinction ancient tomb." Both of Xiao Yan's eyes hardened. The corner of his mouth involuntarily once again cried out involuntarily. "Sky extinction ancient tomb. Please recommend it. Please comment. Please collect it. Those who are interested, please enter the group. Group number 476668761. Chapter 123. Tianju Ancient Tomb? When Luo Jin's word sounded, a surprised expression instantly surfaced on Xiao Yan's face. He did not expect that Luo Jin had called him over today to talk about the Tianju Ancient Tomb. Could it be that this Tianju step had some special connection with the Tianju Ancient Tomb? Seeing the trace of doubt between Xiao Yan's brows, Luo Jin also smiled. His body sat up straight and the wine cup in his hand was slowly placed down. He smiled and said, "That's right, it is the Tianju Ancient Tomb." Hearing these words once again, the emotions in Xiao Yan's heart once again churned. If you want to open the Tianju Ancient Tomb, it seems that you need to use the 3 sets of Tianju's do techniques together. If you just rely on the Tianju step, I'm afraid that you won't be able to do it. That's right. I am also clear about this point. However, other than this point, there are some other places that similarly require the 3 Tianju skills. When Xiao Yan heard Luo Jin's words, his face once again revealed a surprised expression. This kind of thing was something that the people from the Lu clan had never mentioned to him at all. Seeing such an expression on Xiao Yan's face, Luo Jin once again smiled. He swallowed the wine in his cup into his stomach and poured another cup for Xiao Yan. He smiled and said, "Brother Yan Xiao, please." Xiao Yan was not anxious. He knew that Luo Jin would answer for him. He gently raised his wine cup and drank it all in one go. Haha, Brother Yen Xiao really has a good alcohol tolerance. After the laughter sounded, Luo Jin also sighed and opened his mouth to say, although the majority of the people know about the ancient tomb of Heaven's End, they still don't know anything about the inside of the ancient tomb of Heaven's End. As for the information I know, it was only discovered a year ago. Xiao Yan's eyebrows lifted slightly. The Tianzhu ancient tomb had existed for a few hundred years. The factions of the western region would definitely have investigated it continuously. However, even so, they had only discovered something a year ago. The methods of this Tianzhu ancient tomb were really terrifying to the extreme. The leaders of the 4 large sects already possessed the strength of a 9-star half-D 500 years ago. Now that 100 years had passed, their cultivations would definitely be even greater than back then. From the looks of it now, it was likely that their cultivations had already reached the genuine Do D class. When he thought of this, Xiao Yan's heart could not help but tighten. The enemy that he had unknowingly set up was actually so powerful. If he was not careful, his life might really be in danger. On the other hand, Xiao Yan was also shocked by Tianzhu's strength. A Do Di could be considered as a truly strong person in the entire continent. However, such a powerful existence was still unable to shake him in front of his 1,000-year-old tomb. It had to be said that origin transformation experts were truly powerful. Then I wonder what kind of news Brother Luo Jin wants to talk about. Could it be that there's something in this ancient tomb that can only be opened by a heavenly end cultivator? Luo Jin nodded his head and smiled when he heard this. He did not keep Xiao Yan in suspense and directly said, after the joint investigation of the leaders of the 4 large sects, there are 3 tomb chambers sealed by formations within the ancient tomb of Tianzhu. After their special investigation, they came to the conclusion that these 3 tomb chambers are extremely likely to be the inheritance that Tianzhu left behind before he died. Bang! With a bang, the wine cup in Xiao Yan's hand instantly turned into powder. The wine within it was instantly vaporized by Xiao Yan's powerful fire aura due to the violent emotions in Xiao Yan's heart. Inheritance. Just these 2 words would cause the hearts of many people in the continent to be moved. Most importantly, the strength of the person who left behind this inheritance was actually an expert who had already reached the origin transformation realm. Even 1/3 of an origin transformation expert was enough to allow the current Xiao Yan to instantly break through from a 3-star half-martial emperor to a true Do Di. One could imagine the energy contained within. How could this not cause Xiao Yan's heart to be moved? A smile appeared on Luo Jin's face when he saw Xiao Yan's excited face. His hand was spread in the empty air. Immediately, a suction force spread from Luo Jin's palm. Immediately, the natural energy seemed to have received some guidance as it gathered toward Luo Jin's hand. Luo Jin's hand rotated in the air and a transparent wine cup appeared once again. He filled it with wine and handed it to Xiao Yan. Luo Jin continued, the seals within these 3 tomb chambers are too powerful. Even they have no chance of forcefully breaking them. Moreover, they are also afraid of damaging the inheritance within. Therefore, these 3 tomb chambers can only be opened by the 3 Heaven's End skills. The 3 Heaven's End skills each occupy a tomb chamber. You also have the chance to obtain one of the inheritances. Hearing this, Xiao Yan basically understood. Today, Luo Jin had called him over. It was likely that he did not just want to talk about the ancient tomb of Heaven's End with him. There should be something that he wanted to obtain within this tomb. Brother Luo Jin has said so much to me. I'm afraid that it is not just to tell me the secret of this Heaven's End, right? Xiao Yan smiled. A glint flashed across his eyes. His eyes narrowed as he smiled at Luo Jin and softly laughed. Cuckoo, I really have a tacit understanding with Brother Yen Xiao. The 4 large sects will definitely not let go of the 3 tomb chambers within this ancient tomb of Heaven's End. At that time, Brother Yen Xiao will likely be suppressed by the combined efforts of the 4 large sections. That inheritance might not even end up in your hands. Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned when Luo Jin spoke until this point. If the people from the 4 large sects were to join hands to deal with him at that time, there would be no need for the 4 sect leaders to personally intervene. It was likely that he would have already fallen into a disadvantage. There was even less need to talk about the inheritance. However, Xiao Yan immediately smiled and once again opened his mouth to speak to Luo Jin with a smile. If that is the case, I can just withdraw first after opening the tomb chambers. I will first allow the 4 large factions to kill each other. Finally, I will come and reap the benefits. Even if I can't defeat them, I can still run. Luo Jin appeared to have already expected Xiao Yan's words. He laughed softly and once again opened his mouth to speak. Does Brother Yen Xiao really think that the 4 large sects are stupid? Since they dare to join hands to snatch it, they will naturally cover up all sudden accidents. What do you think are your chances of snatching the inheritance from the hands of the 4 elite Do Di? Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned when these words of Luo Jin were spoken. The elite Do Di class would definitely be a hurdle before he truly matured. Xiao Yan slowly shook his head and helplessly sighed. Luo Jin merely smiled when he saw this and said, "Therefore, I wish to cooperate with Brother Yen Xiao once again." Xiao Yan's tightly knit eyebrows relaxed slightly. He glanced at Luo Jin. The only thing he could conclude was that Luo Jin in front of him definitely had the support of an elite Do Di behind him. You continue to be the fisherman. I will deal with them. Please add. Please comment. Please recommend. Those who are interested, please enter the group. Group number 476668761. Chapter 124. You continue to be the fisherman. I will deal with them. Xiao Yan's eyebrows twitched when Luo Jin's words were uttered. His heart was also extremely shocked by Luo Jin's words. An elite Do Di was already one of the true peak experts of the continent. No one would dare to underestimate an expert of this level. However, at this moment, this fellow in front of Xiao Yan had actually said such words in such an indifferent manner. This really caused Xiao Yan to be extremely amazed in his heart. It was good to have a background. One could even turn a blind eye to a Do Di. It could be said that behind Luo Jin, there might even be an origin transformation expert. Otherwise, how would one dare to easily look down on a Do Di? Xiao Yan sighed in his heart. He once again raised his eyes and looked at Luo Jin. He smiled and said, "Brother Luo Jin, since you are not afraid of the 4 of them, why do you need to look for me? Can't you just do it yourself? Isn't it unnecessary to look for me?" Luo Jin had clearly guessed that Xiao Yan would ask such a question when the words from Xiao Yan's mouth sounded. He laughed softly and opened his mouth to speak. Asking Brother Yen Xiao to act to attract them is not because I am greedy for the inheritance. However, if I had acted earlier, it is likely that even I would not have been able to snatch it. You should know that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. A sharp glint flashed deep within Luo Jin's eyes when he spoke. This caused the expression on Xiao Yan's face to solidify slightly. Unaware of the oriole behind. It seemed that the 4 large sects were not the only ones participating in this ancient tomb of Heaven's End. Since Brother Luo Jin has decided to join hands with me, I wonder what you want to obtain this time around? Luo Jin smiled when he heard this. He knew what Xiao Yan meant. He was merely afraid that Xiao Yan would swallow all the inheritances. Immediately, Luo Jin smiled and replied, "Brother Yen Xiao, you don't have to worry about this. At that time, no matter what the outcome is, there will definitely be an inheritance that belongs to you. However, if you're able to obtain 3 inheritances, I hope that Brother Yen Xiao can give 2 to me. Because my cultivation method is special. I'm extremely interested in cultivation resources. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken such a great risk to look for the Heaven Palace Jade Essence that day." When he heard this, Xiao Yan basically understood Luo Jin's ultimate goal. He merely wanted to obtain 2 inheritances. Although he was somewhat reluctant in his heart, Xiao Yan also clearly understood that if he did not agree, it would be difficult to obtain even 1 inheritance. Therefore, he silently nodded his head and agreed. The inheritance within this ancient tomb of Heaven's End was after all a matter of the future. Who knew what unexpected changes would occur in the future? Since the matter at hand had been resolved, the 2 of them completely relaxed. 1 day passed in this manner. There was no sense of time during training. Time flashed by and there were only 5 days left until the opening ceremony of the Alchemist Grand Meeting. Ever since Xiao Yan had left the Yunyin Pavilion and returned to the inn, he had not left. He had been cooped up in his room to refine his avatar. After half a month of refinement, these 2 avatars were much better than when they had just been successfully formed half a month ago. The actual strength of the 2 avatars had already stabilized at the 6-star Do Shang and 7-star Do Shang levels. With the foundation of the first avatar, the strength of the second avatar was clearly much stronger than the first one after being formed. This was considered a good thing for Xiao Yan. After all, Once his strength advanced to the Do D class in the future, the strength of the avatar that he formed might also reach the frightening Ban D class. If that was the case, would he not be able to create an elite Do D if he were to merge the few avatars into one? If that was the case, it would be able to increase Xiao Yan's fighting strength by nearly twofold. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged on the bed within the room. Both of his eyes were flickering and the corner of his mouth was lifted into an arc. Xiao Yan was quite satisfied in his heart as he looked at the two nearly substance-like avatars in front of him. The two avatars that had been successfully formed possessed such a frightening strength. If the three avatars were successfully formed and merged together, their strength would be comparable to an elite Ban D. At that time, he would have some confidence when facing the people from the Ghost Slaughter Gate. With this thought flashing across his heart, the two avatars in front of Xiao Yan instantly transformed into two majestic spiritual strengths that entered Xiao Yan's mind. The process of forming two avatars naturally exhausted quite a lot of spiritual strength. Fortunately, with the support of Xiao Yan's frightening spiritual strength, it did not cause Xiao Yan to become too weak. He would be fine after resting for 2 days. Moreover, after using such a large amount of spiritual strength, Xiao Yan could clearly sense that his spiritual strength was gradually becoming stronger following the growth of the avatars. Although this kind of growth was so small that it could be ignored, it was still considered a pleasant surprise for Xiao Yan. Just as Xiao Yan scattered the two avatars, a person quickly walked over from outside the wooden door of the guest room. That person walked to the door and was about to raise his hand to knock when Xiao Yan's voice was slowly emitted from within the room. "Come in. There is no need to knock." Xiao Yan's voice was suddenly emitted, causing the face of the person standing outside the door to be startled. Immediately, he heard the voice that was transmitted from within the room. Only then did he relax and slowly push open the door. "Junior greets Senior Yan Xiao." Once he entered, before he could clearly see Xiao Yan's appearance on the bed, the man had already bowed and cupped his hands together towards Xiao Yan. He even respectfully addressed him. Xiao Yan casually swept his gaze over the black-robed figure in front of the door. He raised his eyebrows and opened his mouth to ask, "Someone from the Alchemist Association?" Hearing Xiao Yan's question, that person did not dare to slight him and hurriedly opened his mouth to speak. "Senior, this junior is indeed a member of the Alchemist Association. Why are you looking for me?" Hearing the reply of this black-robed person, Xiao Yan was not surprised. That day when Guli gave him that jade token, Xiao Yan already had a premonition in his heart that Guli would look for him again sooner or later. However, he did not expect that it would actually be so close to the opening ceremony of the Alchemist Grand Meeting. Hearing Xiao Yan's question once again, the black-robed person also frowned slightly when he sensed the trace of indifference within Xiao Yan's words. However, he still replied honestly, "Senior, our association head wishes to invite Senior to the Alchemist Association to meet him." "Oh? Is this considered an invitation? Then why doesn't he come himself?" When these words of Xiao Yan sounded, that person was also stunned. Immediately, his face was filled with helplessness. How would he know why Guli did not come? He was merely a messenger. The other party was the head of the Alchemist Association. How could he ask the other party? Seeing that the black-robed person was speechless, Xiao Yan merely smiled. He was naturally able to guess this point. There was definitely something that he was afraid of being heard by Wei Yi. Otherwise, he would not be so petty as to send a Dozun to invite him. Xiao Yan stood up, smiled and said, "All right, I understand. You can go back first. I will be there soon. Please recommend me. Please comment. Please add me. Those who are interested can enter the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 125. 3 human figures were seated in front of a table in a somewhat dark room. The atmosphere was somewhat depressing. This caused the hosts, Gu Li and Qi Lin, to have some embarrassment on their faces. Xiao Yan also smiled when he saw this. A glint flashed deep within his eyes. He slowly placed the teacup in his hand down, narrowed his eyes, and looked at Gu Li as he laughed. "Chairman Gu Li has called me over. May I know what matter you have to discuss?" Gu Li and Qi Lin exchanged glances when they sensed the slight strangeness in Xiao Yan's tone. However, both of them frowned slightly. They were naturally able to hear the thread of dissatisfaction within Xiao Yan's words. Being a dignified bandit and a rank 2 alchemist, even they did not dare to underestimate him when they saw him. Today, however, the person whom the two of them had sent to invite Xiao Yan was actually only at the Dozun class. Such actions would appear to be an act of intentionally slapping their faces in the eyes of anyone. The dissatisfaction in their hearts went without saying. At this moment, the word call in Xiao Yan's words appeared to be quite forceful when he said it. It was clearly intentional. This caused Gu Li and Qi Lin to feel extremely embarrassed in their hearts. It was a long while later before Qi Lin by the side finally laughed out loud. His face squeezed out an awkward smile as he smiled at Xiao Yan and said, "Brother Yan Xiao is too polite. With your status, what qualification do we have to randomly order you around? It is just that there are many matters to attend to within the association. The chairman and the both of us are tied up by some trivial matters and are unable to personally invite you over. Hence, we have sent someone over. If there is anything that is not satisfactory, I hope that Brother Yan Xiao can understand." Gu Li, who was seated close to Xiao Yan, smiled awkwardly and nodded to Xiao Yan after Qi Lin's words were spoken. Xiao Yan merely laughed coldly in the face of this and said, "Since the two of you are unable to leave due to some matters, don't tell me that you can't find a Do Shang in this large alchemist association? You are inviting someone, yet you are so petty as to only use Do Zun. I am at the very least a bandee. Don't tell me that the two of you look down on me? If this is the case, I will leave immediately." Before his voice sounded, Xiao Yan had already stood up. His face was cold as he walked out of the door. Gu Li and Qi Lin's faces immediately paled when they saw this scene. Their bodies flashed and appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Their faces were full of smiles. They were just about to speak when Xiao Yan once again opened his mouth and spoke in an indifferent tone. "Do you intend to use your strength to forcefully keep me here?" The moment Xiao Yan's words were uttered, Gu Li and Xiao Yan were once again startled. Gu Li could not be bothered about anything else as he hurriedly opened his mouth and said, "Brother Yan Xiao, you misunderstood. Brother Yan Xiao, you misunderstood. This old brother is also helpless. If Brother Yan doesn't mind, can you sit down and listen to what the old me has to say?" A glint flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when these words of Gu Li were spoken. He smiled in his heart, but his face still maintained a cold and indifferent manner. He turned around and sat in front of the table. Gu Li and Qi Lin sighed in relief in their hearts when they saw Xiao Yan return to his original seat. They sighed softly and returned to their original seats. They looked at Xiao Yan together. It was as though they were afraid that Xiao Yan would run away again. Both of their eyes stared intently at Xiao Yan and were unwilling to shift away even a little. Cough, cough. Xiao Yan's old face reddened when he was stared at in this manner by the two of them. He was afraid that these two old fellows would be able to see through something. He hurriedly coughed twice before waking the two of them, who were once again silent. After recovering, Gu Li and Qi Lin once again looked at each other. The corners of their mouths curled slightly. After which, Gu Li sighed once again and slowly opened his mouth to speak. "Brother Yan Xiao, it is not that the old me, Gu Li, looks down on you. With Brother Yan Zhao's ability, no matter if it is strength or alchemy skills, no one will dare to look down on you in this southwest border. However," Gu Li paused for a moment when he spoke until this point. He glanced at Qi Lin before using his eyes to sweep around, as though he was afraid that something was eavesdropping. After a long while, after confirming that there was no one around, he continued to speak. "However, the matter that the old me wants to talk about may cause Wei Yi to be dissatisfied in his heart. However, he is after all the chief alchemist of our alchemist association. Normally, he has quite a bit of control over the matters of the association. If we openly invite Brother Yan Xiao here, I'm afraid that we will inevitably bump into him. Therefore we can only helplessly choose to do this." Xiao Yan involuntarily frowned slightly when Gu Li's words reached this point. Even Wei Yi would feel dissatisfied after hearing it. Could it be that these two old fellows really wanted to forcefully vacate the position of chief alchemist in order to tie him down? Xiao Yan also felt a little displeased in his heart when he thought of this. His natural disposition was undisciplined and he was used to roaming all over the place. If these two old fellows really wanted to forcefully keep him here, it was likely that Xiao Yan would not stay even if they used all their strength. However, even though he had such thoughts in his heart, Xiao Yan really did not think that these two kind old men in front of him were such pedantic people before he knew the answer. Brother Yan Xiao should also know that the Alchemist Grand Meeting is imminent. There are quite a number of people who have come to participate in the Alchemist Grand Meeting this time around. Even the disciples of some of the large factions have been attracted to come. Hence, the value of this Alchemist Grand Meeting can be said to be the greatest in many years. Of course, there are quite a number of people among them who have come for the champion spot of this alchemist grand meeting. However, everyone knows that this champion spot is not easy to obtain. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows. Could the matter that Gu Li wanted to talk to him about be related to this alchemist grand meeting? When he thought of the alchemist grand meeting, in addition to Wei Yi that Gu Li had mentioned earlier, and the rank 2 alchemist from Nanlin City, MOD, whom he had met at the Union Pavilion earlier, Gu Li's motive for secretly inviting Xiao Yan over this time around was something that Xiao Yan had an idea in his heart. If he was right, Gu Li's actions should be to allow Xiao Yan to participate in this alchemist grand meeting. Moreover, he wanted Xiao Yan to do his best to obtain the champion spot in the grand meeting. Xiao Yan's eyes slowly narrowed when he thought of this. A flame light also flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes, causing the space in front of Xiao Yan to distort for a moment before it suddenly shattered in front of Gu Li's and Qi Lin's eyes. The two of them exchanged glances with each other. Their hearts were incomparably shocked. It was not easy for them to get Xiao Yan to sit down again. Why did he suddenly become angry for no reason at this moment? Just as they were about to speak, Xiao Yan was jolted back to his senses by the explosion. Immediately, he looked at Gu Li with a smile on his face and opened his mouth to speak. If I have guessed correctly, President Gu Li has invited me over today to help your Alchemist Association obtain the champion spot in this Alchemist Grand Meeting. Although these words sounded like a question to Gu Li, anyone could hear the certainty in Xiao Yan's words. When Gu Li and Qi Lin heard Xiao Yan's sudden words, their eyebrows also twitched. In their hearts, they were incomparably shocked by Xiao Yan's words. They did not expect that Xiao Yan had actually guessed what they were thinking in their hearts. However, these words were, after all, the truth in his heart. Therefore, although he was extremely shocked in his heart, Gu Li still nodded his head heavily. Seeing this, Xiao Yan once again smiled and said, "If President Gu Li's wish today is only like this, then I will not stay any longer. I have just stepped into the rank 2 alchemist. My heart is also incomparably fiery with regards to this alchemist grand meeting. If I have the ability, I will naturally not let it go." After his voice sounded, Xiao Yan had already stood up and walked out of the door. Gu Li and Qi Lin behind him also slowly stood up. This time, the two of them did not block Xiao Yan's path. Since the other party had already made it clear first, there was naturally no need for him to say anything more. However, just as Xiao Yan was about to step out of the room, Gu Li seemed to have thought of something and shouted towards Xiao Yan. "Brother Yan Xiao, I hope that you don't tell Wei Yi about today's matter. That fellow is naturally suspicious and will definitely do something out of line. At that time, we can avoid causing another big battle." The corners of Xiao Yan's mouth curled into a smile when he heard this. His body paused slightly as he smiled and said, "Relax, I won't say it. If I'm not wrong, the current Wei Yi should already be thinking too much in his heart." After his voice sounded, Xiao Yan's figure also disappeared from the sight of Gu Li and Qi Lin. When Gu Li and Qi Lin heard Xiao Yan's words, their expressions instantly froze. They stood in the same spot for a long time and did not recover from their shock. "Please add me. Please comment. Please recommend me. Those who are interested, please enter the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 126. At the same time that Xiao Yan had just left the Alchemist Association, Wei Yi's body, which was seated in front of a medicinal cauldron in a pill refining room, was trembling intensely at this moment. At this moment, there was a raging fury within his pair of shady old eyes that was about to spurt out. This scene also caused the black-robed man, who was standing respectfully by the side, to reveal an even more terrified expression. His head, which was originally lowered, was lowered even further at this moment. He did not even dare to breathe loudly. It was a long while later before Wei Yi forcefully withdrew from his heart that was filled with fury. He suppressed the fury in his heart and asked the black-robed man beside him, "That old thing Gu Li, why did he look for Yan Xiao?" The man was startled. He once again cried out bitterly in his heart. Earlier, he was interrogated by Xiao Yan. At this moment, he was being pressured by Wei Yi. Forget about him not knowing. Even if he knew, it was likely that he would have already been so frightened that he would have completely forgotten. After being shocked for a long while, this black-robed man finally opened his mouth and slowly said with a trembling body, "Wei, Lord Wei Yi, this junior is also unaware." "Huh?" Before his voice sounded, a voice that was filled with an imposing aura had already rushed out from Wei Yi's mouth, causing the entire space to tremble intensely. After sensing the thread of dissatisfaction in Wei Yi's heart, the black-robed man's body suddenly became soft. He instantly knelt on the ground and his face was as pale as paper. "You mean that you don't know?" Wei Yi paused for a moment. He did not bother about the black-robed man kneeling on the ground. Instead, his eyes narrowed slightly. They turned into a thin line as he stared at the raging flame that was burning within the medicinal cauldron in front of him. He slowly raised his hand. Following the surge of an invisible force, the flame within the medicinal cauldron also changed form, transforming into an extremely brutal-looking magical beast. Immediately, Wei Yi opened his mouth and asked softly. Sensing the powerful spiritual pressure from Wei Yi's palm, the black-robed man's throat rolled a little as he glanced at the frightening magical beast within the medicinal cauldron. He was about to open his mouth. "If you're not saying anything, it means that you're admitting to it." Wei Yi's hand, which was spread in front of him, was suddenly clenched after these words were uttered. A thought was also emitted. The frightening raging flame magical beast within the medicinal cauldron also broke through the restraints of the medicinal cauldron with a bang and appeared within the pill refining room. Following the appearance of this enormous raging flame magical beast, the entire pill refining house began to shake and crumble. If it were not for the extraordinary materials used to build this pill refining house, it was likely that this pill refining house would have been turned into ruins the moment the magical beast appeared. The black-robed man's twos. He was certain that if this big fellow in front of him, of course, he definitely would not have the slightest chance of him had the man hurriedly raised his head and looked at Wei Yi as he thought of this. His eyes were filled with a pleading expression. However, before he could open his mouth, Wei Yi turned his head and met his eyes. His eyes were filled with indifference. "You are Gu Li's trusted aide. Since he is able to hand such a mission to you, it is naturally because he trusts you a lot. Now that you have betrayed him, it is only a matter of time before he discovers it. At that time, you will have difficulty escaping death no matter what. Rather than being turned into ashes and nothingness, why don't you lend me a hand? When someone is willing to buy it in the future, it can be considered as showing a little of your value." The man's expression instantly changed when Wei Yi's words sounded. He naturally understood the meaning behind Wei Yi's words. Immediately, his entire person became crazy as he roared at Wei Yi in a hysterical manner. "Wei Yi, you have violated the rules of the world of alchemists. All living things in this world cannot be turned into pills in defiance of the heavens. If you forcefully refine me into a medicinal pill today, you will definitely be surrounded and attacked by the Alchemist Association and the various large factions." Wei Yi acted as though he did not hear this. A cold laugh was emitted from his mouth. The corners of his mouth lifted into an icy arc as he softly opened his mouth and laughed. "That's right. If news of this were to spread, the old me will naturally receive quite a bit of condemnation. I will definitely not be able to continue staying in this Alchemist Association. However, don't tell me that you have not noticed that there are only the two of us in this pill refining room. Even if there is a riot here, isn't it normal for a cauldron to explode when refining pills?" After his voice sounded, the enormous raging flame magical beast had already swallowed the black-robed man in one gulp without waiting for him to beg for mercy. It swallowed the black-robed man alive. After returning to the guest room, Xiao Yan's head fell onto the bed. Condensing an avatar for a long period of time had indeed caused Xiao Yan's heart to feel somewhat tired. When he thought of the two opponents he still had, his heart wanted to properly rest. The alchemist grand meeting was just around the corner. If he did not reach his peak condition, he would inevitably suffer a loss when the time came. As Xiao Yan thought in this manner in his heart, the breathing of his entire body gradually became even. However, just as Xiao Yan was about to fall into a deep sleep, his gently shut eyes suddenly opened. His body twisted and he sat up. A flame glow instantly flashed across his clear eyes. Xiao Yan waved his large sleeve and the space in front of him was instantly torn apart, forming a spatial crack that was over 10 feet wide. A thought passed through his mind and a green-gold medicinal cauldron that was dozens of feet tall floated in the space in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan did not have the courage to let this big fellow crash to the ground. If he did so, Xiao Yan was certain that this inn would not have the chance to exist. The huge medicinal cauldron that Xiao Yan had taken out was the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron that was ranked second on the Heavenly Cauldron ranking that he had obtained in Yanluo City. Ever since Xiao Yan had obtained the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron, he had almost forgotten about it. During his time in the ancient savage city, various things had happened continuously. As a result, Xiao Yan could not recall this matter. Now, it was time for him to take a good look at this Luo Tian divine cauldron. When Xiao Yan had just obtained it, he had only taken a quick glance at it. Now that he had seen it carefully, this Luo Tian divine cauldron could really be called a work of art. What was depicted on the body of the cauldron was the whirling world. Everything in this world was reflected on it. It was as though the entire world was included in it. This Luo Tian divine cauldron had actually included the entire world. It was indeed worthy of being ranked second on the heavenly cauldron ranking. Compared to those ancient magical beasts on the Thousand Beast Cauldron, this Luo Tian divine cauldron was even more imposing. It was able to subdue others with its strength. It was terrifying. However, under Xiao Yan's careful inspection, a crack line had appeared on the body of the cauldron. Xiao Yan was extremely shocked by the damage to the Luo Tian divine cauldron. The Luo Tian divine cauldron was a frightening existence ranked second on the heavenly cauldron ranking. Its reputation on the continent was naturally known by everyone. It was impossible for anyone who obtained it to be damaged. However, from the looks of it, the Luo Tian divine cauldron was not simple. This is the Luo Tian divine cauldron. He brat, you have found some good things while this old man was asleep. Suddenly, Gu Yu's voice seemed to have been transmitted from the depths of hell. It was faintly transmitted into Xiao Yan's ears, causing Xiao Yan's expression to involuntarily turn pale. The final drawing was a little off. It is really a story jam. However, I will try my best to make up for it. The first chapter is here. Please recommend it. Please comment. Please add it. Those who are interested can join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 127. At a cursory glance, the medicinal cauldron did not appear strange. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that the entire medicinal cauldron was covered with cracks. At the very least, nearly half of the cauldron's body was filled with cracks that were almost penetrating. From top to bottom, these cracks spread out like a pine tree. Xiao Yan also saw the reason for all of this with a single glance. There was a clear blade scar on the top of the medicinal cauldron. This blade scar was the key to the damage to the medicinal cauldron. Xiao Yan's eyes focused on the domineering blade scar. His heart was also extremely shocked by it. The Luo Tian divine cauldron was ranked second on the heavenly cauldron ranking. Regardless of how much it could increase the success rate of refining medicine, just the materials used to refine the Luo Tian divine cauldron were extraordinary. An entire piece of heavenly sun green gold was something that even the entire fortune of an origin transformation expert could not compare to. This Luo Tian divine cauldron was made from an entire piece of heavenly sun green gold. This was also the reason why it was able to maintain its original shape without breaking after being seriously damaged. This was the first time that Xiao Yan had seen such a tough medicinal cauldron in many years. Xiao Yan slowly raised his hand. His fingertips swept over the domineering blade scar. The moment they made contact, the extremely domineering and terrifying aura left behind by the previous person instantly surged out from the blade scar. It attacked Xiao Yan's body, causing Xiao Yan's expression to instantly turn pale. Ha! Suddenly, a cold snort was emitted from Xiao Yan's body. The extremely domineering blade qi also broke with this sound. Even though this was the case, the exploding blade qi still caused quite a large impact within Xiao Yan's body. Grug! Xiao Yan's body also suddenly took a couple of steps back the moment the blade qi exploded. A mouthful of blood was involuntarily spat out. Humph! A mere remnant blade aura actually dares to flaunt in front of this old man. Forget about a mere blade aura. Even if your actual body was here, you would not have the ability to do so. Gu Yu's figure slowly appeared beside Xiao Yan. A cold snort was emitted from his mouth as he waved his sleeve. An invisible force immediately attacked and once again struck the blade scar. Boom! A muffled sound appeared. The remnant blade aura on the saber instantly exploded. It had been eliminated by Gu Yu. Gu Yu turned his head to look at Xiao Yan, who was half kneeling on the ground. His nose emitted a soft snort as he softly reprimanded. Although the strength of a fellow of this level is not great, he is still not someone you can casually touch. Do you think that the blade scar has lost its might after nearly 1,000 years? You really do not know the immensity of the heavens and earth. If the old me was not here today, when the blade aura completely erupted, it is likely that even this savage ancient city would be instantly destroyed. With just you, humph! Xiao Yan once again coughed violently a couple of times after Gu Yu's words were uttered. The muscles on his face twitched, destroying the entire savage ancient city with a single strike in an instant. Xiao Yan was certain that even if he self-destructed with all his strength and used the heavenly flame within his body, he would not be able to create such a frightening attack. However, at this moment, such a small blade aura was actually able to create such a frightening attack. This was truly shocking. Xiao Yan quietly rejoiced in his heart while feeling shocked. It was fortunate that old Gu was present today. Otherwise, he would not even know how he died. In Xiao Yan's heart, he became increasingly curious about the expert who had left behind this blade scar. To be able to leave behind such a powerful blade aura that did not scatter after 1,000 years, the strength of this expert was likely at least at the Great Origin King level. The Great Origin King level. The current Xiao Yan did not even dare to imagine it. An expert of that level would have a place even on the continent. Yet, this medicinal cauldron contained a full-force attack from the other party. It was likely that the previous owner of the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron was not a mediocre person. Xiao Yan involuntarily coughed a couple of times after sighing in his heart. He hurriedly took out a Tier 9 recovery pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. A warm current swiftly spread from Xiao Yan's abdomen after the medicinal pill entered his body. The injuries within his body gradually recovered. Gu Yu once again emitted a soft snort when Xiao Yan stood up. His shriveled hand was spread in front of Xiao Yan as he spoke in a faint voice. "Take it. This thing is endlessly beneficial to you." Xiao Yan lifted his eyebrows. He looked at Gu Yu's hand. A jade-like bead lay quietly in his palm. "This?" Xiao Yan was just about to inquire when Gu Yu quickly opened his mouth to speak. "Don't think too much. The old me has nothing to give you. This is the blade aura from earlier. However, after being refined by the old me, some of that person's understanding of the blade remains within it. Although your weapon is not a large blade, the two are similar. You should be able to gain a lot of understanding from it." A feeling surged in Xiao Yan's heart when he heard Gu Yu's words. Gu Yu usually stuck to his duty and basically ignored Xiao Yan. However, at this moment, he was still thinking about Xiao Yan's strength. How could this action not touch Xiao Yan's heart? Xiao Yan was a person who would return the favor tenfold. He did not hesitate to take half a step back when he saw Gu Yu act so righteously. He respectfully bowed to Gu Yu. "This junior thanks elder for your kindness." A glint flashed across Gu Yu's eyes when he saw Xiao Yan's actions. A smile of praise flashed across the corner of his mouth, but it only lasted for an instant. Gu Yu returned to normal an instant later. He snorted softly as a reply to Xiao Yan. He tossed the bead in his hand to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan hurriedly caught it and carefully observed the bead in his hand. Gu Yu ignored Xiao Yan's existence and looked at the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron. More accurately speaking, he was looking at the blade scar on the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron. A long while later, Gu Yu glanced at Xiao Yan by the side. He curled his lips and his deep old eyes looked at the blade scar. After which, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "What happened? Since the blade aura has been broken, your seal has also been broken. Are you not planning to come out and let us get to know you? Or do you want this old me to personally drag you out?" Xiao Yan's expression changed after Gu Yu uttered these words. He looked at Gu Yu and frowned. He followed Gu Yu's gaze and the expression in his eyes changed again. Gu Yu was actually speaking to the blade scar. The Luo Tian Divine Cauldron seemed to have sensed something after Gu Yu's words sounded. After hesitating for a moment, it finally sighed. After which, a transparent human figure slowly floated out of the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron and appeared in front of Xiao Yan and Gu Yu's eyes. The second update is here. Please add it. Please comment. Please recommend it. Those who are interested can join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 128. Xiao Yan's eyes stared at this film-like transparent human figure in front of him. His heart immediately felt a shock. The Yuan-Wu continent's rule strength was different from the Do-Chi continent. This caused one's soul to be unable to endure for long without a physical body before reaching the Do-Di class. It was only a matter of time before one's soul was destroyed. At this moment, the illusory human figure in front of Xiao Yan was actually standing in front of him. Moreover, he had come out of the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron. Did this not mean that his strength was at least that of an elite Do-Di? Xiao Yan's eyes suddenly shrank when he thought of this. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the person in front of him. That transparent illusory human figure completely ignored Xiao Yan's gaze. It was as though he was ignoring Xiao Yan. His eyes stared intently at Gu Yu in front of him. He was silent for a long time. Even the current Xiao Yan was unaware of Gu Yu's strength. The only thing he could guess was that Gu Yu's true strength was likely not inferior to an expert from the Origin sect. This also caused Xiao Yan to become a little bolder. Although Gu Yu would uphold his duty and not intervene on Xiao Yan's behalf, Xiao Yan clearly understood in his heart that Gu Yu would not simply stand by and do nothing if it was a life-and-death situation. You are finally willing to come out by yourself. Gu Yu parted his mouth and smiled as he looked at the illusory human figure in front of him. He crossed his arms over his chest and slowly laughed. The human figure's expression became grave upon seeing this. He could sense an invisible pressure in front of Gu Yu. That kind of pressure wasn't intentional. Instead, it was the aura that an absolute expert possessed. Within this aura, anyone's strength would be suppressed out of nowhere. As for him as a spirit body, the pressure that he felt was akin to Mount Tai pressing down on him. Gu Yu lifted his brows when he sensed the discomfort of the illusory human figure. A thought passed through his heart and the invisible aura around him quietly disappeared. At this moment, Gu Yu appeared just like an ordinary old man. One could not sense the slightest fluctuation from him. That human figure recovered the moment the aura around him disappeared. His face was filled with shock as he looked at Gu Yu. Gu Yu was able to control his own aura and control the creation of the world. Such strength was something that even he at his peak could not compare with. The illusory human figure once again sighed in his heart. He was merely shocked by Gu Yu's great strength for a moment before he suppressed it. After which, he slowly opened his mouth and spoke. That's right, I have come out by myself. I have lived for so long that I do not wish to die. Gu Yu smiled. He ignored the strange expression on Xiao Yan's face as he opened his mouth and laughed. Are you not going to introduce yourself? The old me is Zhou Tong, someone from 1,000 years ago. May I know if this younger generation has heard of me? Zhou Tong's eyes looked at Xiao Yan as he slowly opened his mouth and spoke. Xiao Yan was non-committal. He curled his mouth. He was not someone from the Origin martial continent. How would he know this old fellow? Zhou Tong also let out a miserable smile when he saw this manner that was revealed on Xiao Yan's face. However, he did not say anything. How could a person who had already died be known by these younger generation members from over 1,000 years later? It was really laughable. Gu Yu smiled in a non-committal manner. Then he opened his mouth and said, Don't worry. Then he said, The connection between you and the Luotian Divine Cauldron has yet to be severed. Zhou Tong's expression changed the moment Gu Yu's words sounded. However, after a moment of silence, he sighed and opened his mouth to speak. It will be severed sooner or later. However, whether it will be severed today will depend on you. Gu Yu frowned upon hearing this. His old eyes narrowed as he stared at Zhou Tong. There was an iciness surging within his eyes. Many tiny ice fragments slowly appeared around Gu Yu. The strength of the bone-chilling flame had also been activated. Zhou Tong's expression instantly changed when he saw this scene. Those fine ice fragments caused him to feel a rather dangerous feeling. If you want my Luotian Divine Cauldron, you must help me settle a matter. This time around, the ground around Gu Yu was covered in ice. This was also his current mood. Zhou Tong ignored him. Instead, his expression returned to normal as he continued to speak. Help me kill someone. Otherwise, this Luotian Divine Cauldron will be turned into a pile of dust even if I have to risk my life. Are you threatening me? The piercing cold ice turned into sharp icicles that floated around Zhou Tong. With just a thought from Gu Yu, Zhou Tong would definitely die in the next moment. This is not a threat. You can view it as a threat. Although he was extremely nervous in his heart, Zhou Tong still maintained an unyielding attitude as he slowly opened his mouth to speak. The instant he spoke, the icicle was merely inches away from his body. He could even feel that at this moment, even this wisp of remnant soul of his felt as though it was about to be frozen. Gu Yu's eyes were icy cold as he looked at the determined Zhou Tong. He inhaled a deep breath of air and slowly turned his head to look at Xiao Yan. You will kill? A strange expression was revealed on Xiao Yan's face when he saw this. The conversation between the two of them had always been unclear. No matter how he listened, he was only able to roughly understand. At this moment, the only thing he knew was that if he wanted to obtain the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron, he must help this old man, who would not die, kill someone. Ugh! Elders, can you first tell me how I can take away this Luo Tian Divine Cauldron? The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched. He timidly looked at these two hostile old fellows and smiled awkwardly. Help him kill the person who injured him. He will take the initiative to cut off his connection with the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron. The Luo Tian Divine Cauldron will naturally belong to you. Xiao Yan instantly understood after Gu Yu spoke. In order to obtain the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron, he had to kill an expert who was at least an advanced origin king. Forget about the fact that he did not have the strength to kill such a person. It was impossible for him to even meet such a person even if he wanted to. Zhou Tong once again smiled as if he had sensed the distress in Xiao Yan's heart. He opened his mouth and said, I don't need you to find him. I only need you to take revenge for me when you meet him. I can hand the Luo Tian Divine Cauldron to you now. However, the prerequisite is that you must swear on the lightning penalty oath. Humph. From what I see, there is no need for that. Gu Yu's body instantly ignited with a fierce heavenly flame before Zhou Tong's voice sounded. The dense white flame danced around Gu Yu's body like a spirit. Zhou Tong's expression instantly changed when he saw the dense white flame on Gu Yu's body. Given his experience, he naturally knew what this flame was. Bone-chilling flame. You are a fire spirit. Zhou Tong's eyes were widened as he looked at Gu Yu. His eyes were filled with shock. No wonder Xiao Yan, who was merely a small bandit, was accompanied by such a powerful expert. It was actually the spirit of a heavenly flame. Everyone knew that all the heavenly flames in the world had already turned into spirits. Those who could get them to follow were not those who possessed heaven-defying talent. They were all dragons amongst men. As a person, one had to follow the heavens. Otherwise, the heavenly flame would take the initiative to leave. No one knew the reason, but all the owners of the heavenly flames had to follow this rule. At this moment, Xiao Yan was able to obtain the favor of a heavenly flame. Moreover, it was the bone-chilling flame, which was ranked 11th on the heavenly flame ranking. With such a status, the lightning penalty oath was basically nothing to him. There was really no need for the lightning penalty oath. I can acquiesce to the lightning penalty oath. However, I hope that you will remember the matter that the old me has entrusted you with. Please remember, that person is called Fu Tu Hao. Zhou Tong's originally illusionary body slowly scattered after his voice sounded. Gu Yu's hand was once again extended forward when his body was about to completely disappear. A suction force surged from his hand, and Zhou Tong's shattered soul was forcefully withdrawn by Gu Yu. A moment later, a fist-sized cream-white light cluster appeared in front of Xiao Yan. This was the essence spirit that Zhou Tong's remnant soul had gathered and refined. Give it to me. This spiritual light cluster is sufficiently pure. As long as you are careful, it should be able to merge with your ancestor's remnant soul. It can be considered a nourishment for him. It is a little strange. His condition is not good. However, this segment is finally over. Next, I will prepare to refine medicine. Please recommend me. Please comment. Please add me. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 4766686761. Chapter 129. Time flashed by and the alchemist grand meeting was just around the corner. The day that Xiao Yan had been anticipating for a long time had finally arrived. Everyone in the ancient wildland city was focused on it, and another fiery wave was about to surge. Xiao Yan's body, which was seated on the bed, gently trembled. Soon after, Xiao Yan's figure instantly disappeared from the inn. The space at a certain spot in the sky was slightly distorted. Xiao Yan's figure slowly appeared. He was not the first person to stand in the empty space. At this moment, there were already dozens of experts with strong and solid auras standing in the sky. And these people, among them, the weakest had the strength of a 1-star half-martial emperor. As for the strongest, their strength had already reached the frightening level of an 8-star half-martial emperor. Such a lineup could be said to be terrifying. Xiao Yan's appearance had clearly caused these fellows to be shocked for an instant. After seeing Xiao Yan's face clearly, many of them frowned slightly. Such an immature brat actually dared to stand in the sky. Did he really think that anyone could do so at this level? However, in the next instant, Everyone's expressions changed once again when they sensed the obscure aura on Xiao Yan's body. Xiao Yan's aura was not the slightest bit weaker than some of the core experts among them. This fellow, who appeared to be a member of the younger generation, was actually a powerful half-martial emperor. While everyone was shocked by Xiao Yan's strength, a figure instantly streaked across the sky and arrived in front of Xiao Yan. Before the person arrived, a thunderous voice had already spread over in a mighty manner, causing the entire place to tremble. Haha, brother Yan Xiao, it has only been a few days since we last met. The aura on your body has become even more powerful. Ha 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 ha. As soon as these words were spoken, the half-emperor expert standing in the sky instantly came to an understanding. No wonder this person possessed such a powerful strength at such a young age. He was actually Yan Xiao, who was the most famous person in the ancient city of Wildlands. Due to this, the gazes that everyone used to look at Xiao Yan had an additional admiration. There was even a glint in the eyes of some people as they took the initiative to get close to Xiao Yan. Recently, Xiao Yan's half-martial emperor-level strength was not the main reason for his fame. Instead, it was his peerless and exquisite medicine refinement skills that shocked everyone. At such a young age, not only had his strength reached the half-step emperor realm, but his alchemy skills had also surpassed his predecessors, reaching the second-order emperor realm. It should be known that a Tier 2 alchemist was someone that even these 8-star bandy emperors among them were extremely envious of. The medicinal pills refined by a Tier 2 alchemist could be considered the best in the world in the eyes of everyone below the Dodi class. They possessed endless benefits in raising one's strength. The true strength of a Tier 2 alchemist could also be seen at this moment. Xiao Yan smiled in a bold manner when he saw Qin Zhong walking over. There was no need for him to be overly formal when facing such a person. Otherwise, he would end up being looked at unpleasantly. Brother Qin Zhong, it has been a few days since we last met. Are you heading to the alchemist grand meeting? Qin Zhong once again smiled when he heard this. He laughed and said, Of course. The alchemist grand meeting this time around is extremely lively. If I don't go and take a look, wouldn't I be wasting such a good opportunity? The two of them once again smiled at each other. Just as they were about to head in the direction of the alchemist grand meeting, another human figure flew over. This person was Elder Xian from the Yunin Pavilion. Cuckoo, brother Yan Xiao, shall we travel together? When Elder Xian's words left his mouth, even Qin Zhong, who was beside Xiao Yan, was stunned. What kind of faction was the Yunin Pavilion? As the representative of the Yunin Pavilion to participate in the alchemist grand meeting, Elder Xian's identity naturally represented the entire Yunin Pavilion. However, he had actually requested to travel together with Xiao Yan. The meaning behind this was self-evident. Xiao Yan was also stunned for an instant because of old Xian's sudden words. Immediately, he reacted. He smiled and nodded before slowly opening his mouth to speak. He slowly said, It is naturally my honor to be able to travel together with Elder Xian. Elder Xian smiled in a non-committal manner. The three of them moved. Their feet stepped on empty air as they flew toward the grand meeting venue. After the three of them disappeared, the various Bandi class experts in the sky finally recovered. They looked in the direction where Xiao Yan's group had disappeared and were silent for a long time. A moment later, Xiao Yan's group arrived at a spacious plaza. This plaza could be said to be the largest plaza that Xiao Yan had ever seen. The number of people it could accommodate was so large that even if everyone in the ancient savage city stood on it, it would still be difficult to fill it. From this, one could imagine how spacious this plaza was. The most different thing was that this plaza was actually located in the endless void. This was the first time that Xiao Yan had seen such a scene. Cuckoo, little friend Yan Xiao, brother Xian Yi, brother Qin Zhong, since the three of you are here, please take your seats. When the three of them landed on the plaza in the void, Chairman Guli had already noticed Xiao Yan's arrival. He cupped his hands together and greeted Xiao Yan's group with a smile from afar. The three of them were not reserved at all when they saw this. They followed Gu Li to a viewing platform. As the #1 faction in the ancient savage city, Yunin Pavilion naturally had a seat on the judging panel. Qin Zhong's strength was also not ordinary. Although his seat was not as good as Elder Xian's, it was still a good seat. Only Xiao Yan did not have a seat even though he had many tricks up his sleeve. He was after all a new guest of the ancient savage city and did not have a seat. Cuckoo, brother Yan Xiao should come with this old man. With brother Yan Zhao's strength, there should be a seat for you on the judging panel. Those two are also there. At the end of his words, Gu Li's voice vaguely contained a hint of warning. However, Xiao Yan still nodded and smiled. Since there was already a seat for him, there was naturally no need to be courteous. Even if Wei Yi and Mod were also present, could it be that he was afraid? After everyone took their seats, Xiao Yan discovered that Elder Xian was seated close to him. His eyes involuntarily narrowed as he swept a glance at Qi Lin, who was seated by the side. A thought flashed across his mind. This seat was likely purposely arranged by Gu Li. Cuckoo, isn't this the new rank 2 alchemist from our alchemist association, little brother Yen Xiao? Why? Can't help but want to show off your skills after having some superficial understanding of high-rank alchemists? From what this old man sees, you should go back and train for a few more years. Heh, you have not even seen an Emperor-tier medicinal pill and you already want to refine one. You are really indulging in fantasy. The person who spoke was naturally the chief alchemist of the Alchemist Association, Wei Yi. From his words, one could tell that he had quite a big prejudice against Xiao Yan. Heh, haven't you also not seen many Emperor-tier medicinal pills? Yet, you are still trying to show off in front of a member of the younger generation. He will naturally not let go of such a good learning opportunity. On the other hand, once this old man has finished refining the pill, I can let you take a look at it. Otherwise, you will be a frog at the bottom of a well for the rest of your life. Wei Yi's words had just sounded when another cold voice was quickly emitted. Xiao Yan did not even need to look at this person to know that this person was definitely the rank 2 alchemist from Nanlin City, Mod. Dong! After Mod's words sounded, Wei Yi was just about to open his mouth to speak when a bell chime that resounded across the sky slowly spread from the middle of the square. It reverberated across the empty square and did not disappear for a long time. It was a long while later when the chairman of the Alchemist Association, Gu Li, stood in the middle of the square. His hands were behind his back as his eyes swept across the entire square. Soon after, a vigorous and powerful voice was slowly spat out from Gu Li's mouth. I hereby announce that the Alchemist Grand Meeting has begun. 2 updates today. The first update has been submitted, but I am not in the right state. Please add it. Please comment. Please recommend it. Those who are interested, please join the group. Group number 476668761. Chapter 130. As soon as Gu Li finished speaking, with a thought, the terrifying spiritual energy that was as vast as the sea instantly swept out and spread over the entire square. Immediately after, thousands of stone platforms appeared out of thin air and floated in the middle of the square. Above them, there was also Gu Li's spiritual energy that released an extremely terrifying spiritual pressure. Under this situation, the thousands of alchemists in the viewing gallery leaped one after another. Their bodies flashed a couple of times before they appeared on the suspended stone stage. The moment they stepped onto the stone platform, a frightening pressure, which was as heavy as Mount Tai, suddenly landed on their bodies, causing their bodies to involuntarily sink. Some of them even struggled to hold on for a few breaths before their bodies became unstable and fell off the stone platforms. After that, those people were disqualified from the competition by Gu Li and could only resentfully withdraw from the arena. Of course, the majority of these people obviously knew a thing or two about the rules of the stone platforms. The moment the spiritual pressure attacked, an invisible spiritual energy instantly swept out from between everyone's eyebrows and tried its best to resist the terrifying spiritual pressure. At the same time, their feet did not dare to relax in the slightest. These stone platforms were suspended in the air, but it did not mean that they were absolutely stable. Under the resistance of the two forces, many of the stone platforms had already begun to tilt. At this moment, the second round of the elimination round had officially begun. In merely a moment, quite a number of people once again fell from the stone stage. In less than 2 hours, nearly half of the thousands of people on the stone stage had fallen off. At this moment, the people who were still standing on the stone platforms naturally did not have it easy. Although they could barely stabilize the stone platforms under their feet, there were still many people whose stone platforms seemed to be shaking. If this round lasted a little longer, there would be many people who would fall off the stone platforms. Of course, it was not that there were no powerful people among them. Among them, there were no less than 10 grade 9 alchemists who stood proudly under the tyrannical spiritual pressure. It was obvious that the spiritual pressure had not reached their limit. This also caused Gu Li, who had been observing everyone, to reveal a satisfied smile on his face. In the viewing platform, Xiao Yan was also amazed by the scene in the square. This method was really to end the battle quickly. Given Gu Li's spiritual strength, if it were to really erupt, these Tier 8 and Tier 9 alchemists would not be able to endure the aftershock. However, this method of Gu Li's at this moment was the fastest method to complete the elimination round. Once these 2 elimination rounds were over, it was time for the real battle. After all, alchemists were most proficient in their alchemy skills. When the time for the second round arrived, Gu Li's spiritual pressure, which had spread over the entire empty square, instantly withdrew like floodwaters. There was no need to say anything more. The third round of pill refinement had officially begun. In the eyes of the current Xiao Yan and the rest, the competition between the Grade 8 and Grade 9 alchemists was just like a child playing around. There was nothing worth watching. Therefore, after the start of the alchemy, Xiao Yan, who was in the viewing platform, had already fallen asleep due to boredom. If it was not because Gu Li and the rest were beside him, it was likely that he would have already turned around and left. In the blink of an eye, 8 hours had already quietly passed. Everyone in the viewing platform also had bored expressions. At a glance, other than a few individuals, everyone else appeared to have fallen asleep. Cough cough. Suddenly, a soft cough sounded in the viewing platform. Xiao Yan was also woken up by this soft cough. Haha, old brother Wei Yi, look, this place is so boring. The both of us have not met for so many years. Now, this old man is very curious about the strength between the both of us. Why don't we have a game? The person who spoke was MOD from Nanlin City. At this moment, MOD had a strange smile on his face as he looked at Wei Yi. He played with a teacup in his hand and smiled as he spoke. Humph, what is there to talk about between the both of us? If you want to know my true strength, wait until the grand meeting. When Wei Yi heard MOD's words, he let out a cold snort. His face was cold as he glanced at MOD from the corner of his eyes. MOD was not surprised by this at all. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. He lifted his eyes to look at Wei Yi with disdain and sneered. Why, old brother Wei Yi, do you not dare to compete with this old man? I think it is not that you do not want to reveal your strength. Instead, it is that you do not have the ability to compete with this old man. After so many years, your alchemy skills are still stagnant. MOD, you are courting death. MOD's provocative words caused the anger in Wei Yi's heart to soar. His shriveled hand slammed onto the armrest of the stone chair. Stone fragments shot out as Wei Yi stood up. With a cold snort, the powerful Do Qi within Wei Yi's body instantly surged. The frightening aura that belonged to a 1-star half-emperor swept out in an instant and ruthlessly smashed towards MOD. Hey, why? Do you still wish to fight with this old man? Do you think that I am afraid of you? MOD once again emitted a cold laugh when he saw this. A thought passed through his mind, and an extremely overbearing and frightening aura swept out from within his body. It violently collided with Wei Yi's aura. Bang! With a bang, the figures of the experts in the viewing gallery hurriedly withdrew. Gu Li's face was gloomy as he looked at the two of them. In the end, he did not say anything. On the other hand, Wei Yi's face was grave as he looked at MOD. After so many years, his strength had remained at the level of a 1-star half-emperor. It was likely impossible for him to advance any further. However, at this moment, when he saw MOD's strength, he realized that he had already reached the level of a 3-star half-emperor. However, he had already reached the level of a 3-star Ban D. On the surface, he was about the same level as Xiao Yan. How could he possibly deal with such a strength? Humph! Even though this old man's strength is inferior to yours, this old man has never been afraid of anyone when it comes to spiritual strength. A glint flashed across MOD's eyes when he heard this. He coldly laughed and said, Oh, is that so? Since you are confident that your spiritual strength will not lose to mine, the both of us are ultimately alchemists. In that case, let's have some fun today. This is something related to alchemists. MOD slowly lifted his hand after his words sounded. With a thought, a cluster of green-blue flames appeared in MOD's palm with a puff sound. Xiao Yan was also attracted by this flame as he turned his gaze over. Their gazes coincidentally made contact with each other. MOD smiled once again. The sneer at the corners of his mouth became even more intense as he slowly opened his mouth and said, Why don't Brother Yan Xiao join us? Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows. His eyes narrowed as he looked at MOD. In the end, he softly laughed and lazily opened his mouth to reply. Not interested. At this moment, MOD clearly wanted to find out the true strength of the two of them. How could he easily let go of the opportunity to let Xiao Yan fight? It's boring with just the two of us. Why don't Brother Yan Xiao join us? At the very most, we can add some stakes. Won't this be more interesting? MOD flipped his hand after his voice sounded. A scarlet gold crystal appeared in MOD's hand. Xiao Yan's expression had finally changed at this moment. After staring at the crystal, Xiao Yan raised his eyes to look at MOD and nodded his head heavily. Requesting collection. Requesting collection. Requesting collection. Interested parties, please join the group. Group number 4766687661.